well, here we are at Rock Creek Cattle Company in Deer Lodge, Montana, and delighted to have you with us. The NHL Draft, October the 6th, the NHL Draft. Normally we'd be starting a season around this time, but not in 2020 anyways. Dave Gosher, Shane Knighty, Gary Lawless, delighted to have all of you with us here on 98.9 FM, your radio home for the Vegas Golden Knights, and also on all of our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. This is an exciting day, Shane. I think, first off, let's kind of big picture NHL, right? I think a minor miracle to a degree. They were able to pull off, the Stanley Cup final, award the Stanley Cup in 2020, and a great job done by so many people to do that. And now we're into the off season, not knowing when the next season is going to begin, but the first step in an off season is the NHL Draft, and we have round one of that here tonight.
Well, and done so quickly, the turnaround from handing out the Stanley Cup to the NHL Draft, sometimes it can be a couple weeks away, but this time extremely quick, but that's kind of been the norm here for 2020 is being able to adapt on the fly, and they've done it again for the draft, do it virtually, a little different for the players and their experience. Been through this situation. Very exciting day for a lot of young men today and tomorrow. Today, the first round, of course, and exciting. They've worked their whole lives to get this. This is step one. There's going to be some guys that'll be a direct path. There's some talented players early in this draft to go, and then there's going to be some unknown. It really is, but it's that step of getting an NHL team to call your name. They're going to do it, a little differently this year. But after that's done, then the work really starts. It's a long process for these young men, but a very exciting day.
Golden Knights draft 29th, and the secret or the hope for them is to not draft the 29th player on their list. They're hoping. So last year, for instance, we do not know precisely the number, but they had Peyton Krebs ranked much higher than where they drafted him at 17. So Bobby Lowe's, who is the chief amateur scout for the Vegas Golden Knights, is in a room with Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee and the rest of the Golden Knights hockey operations staff that are here just over the creek from us. They are in a room with a table, a number of screens. Kelly McCrimmon will appear on the television stream that when Gary Bettman will go to Kelly and say, now on the floor is the Vegas Golden Knights, and Kelly will make the pick from there. So they're hoping they've got their list. Their list, it's pretty fascinating this year because of timeline. Their list was done, in June. And then they would have, looked at it again and again and again, and then in the last couple of days finalized it. So what they're hoping now is that there will be a couple of teams that will have different players on their lists, and they'll take them before Vegas gets to draft, so that when Bobby Lowe's and Kelly McCrimmon look down at their list, they'll go da-da-da-da. And there's a player that they had ranked 10th, and he's still available. And that's what it gets exciting because the draft starts to fall and players come off the board, you start to see a guy and you're starting to think, oh my God, he might fall to us. And that's when you get excited. And last year when they got Peyton Krebs, it was a major victory for them, a guy that they had in their top 10. We know that. And they got him at 17. So that's the drama for Golden Knights fans in the next couple of hours to watch that unfold.
Yeah, they've got 5 picks right in the draft, as you mentioned, Gary. The first round pick as of now. That could change in no time. But first rounder today, 2/3. Tomorrow's rounds 2 through 7, but 2/3 tomorrow, and then a 6th and a 7th. Nothing in the 2nd, nothing in the 4th and 5th. But again, that's all subject to change. Shane, do you know the last time that the NHL Draft was held midweek? Any idea?
1994.
Who got drafted
that was my draft. And you know what? I saw a note on that. I'm glad you asked me that. Yeah, 1994, Hartford, Connecticut. It was midweek. I don't remember it being midweek, but I saw a note on that from somewhere, and I was like,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
How about that? That was
same as this year.
Just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Gary, you mentioned last year Peyton Krebs. We were in Vancouver, and it was interesting. Right, he had that Achilles injury, and we were at one end of the rink, basically, and the draft stage was at the other end. and they drafted Peyton Krebs, and I'd kind of forgotten about his Achilles injury. Yeah. And I remember our boss Eric Tosi in charge of the scooter that he was on, and it was
so
pretty
he
interesting.
came out. He was in a cast, and he was on
deal.
a scooter.
Yeah.
And Gosher looked at me like we were off air for a second. He goes, "What are we doing here?
What the hell are they doing?
The guy can't walk. How's he going to skate?"
Mr. Genius over here.
Yeah. Well, that was, and as we've seen since then, Shane and I were talking about this earlier for another piece of content. What you found out about Peyton Krebs since then tells you how lucky they got, because we watched him rehab at City National Arena in Vegas over a year ago, or I guess it's a year ago now. Yeah. He was in, he came to camp and didn't skate, and worked under the microscope of the Golden Knights trainers, and got better and better and better, and then eventually had to leave the casita at Mark Stone's place and go back to junior hockey and the icy roads of Western Canada. It was a bit of a trade down for Peyton when he had to go back, but he was getting to play hockey. And then we saw him came and he earned a spot on the roster for the playoffs, and got to go to the bubble in Edmonton and continued to progress there. So a real good story.
We have a lot to cover over the next 4 hours. We're talking about Peyton Krebs, so we have some of our own Golden Knights insiders, if you will, young players, correspondents that are not. You're the insider, I guess.
He got a little offended there when
I
he
know
said
he was
that.
very upset. That are not that far removed from either playing junior hockey or playing in the NCAA games in America. So you've got Peyton Krebs out of the WHL, Nick Hague, Nick Hague is our Mississauga correspondent. That's it. The rest of the OHL is going to be covered
he knows a few
elsewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. Ben Jones is going to help us out. Jack Dugan, fresh out of Providence, and Cody Glass from the WHL as well.
Well, Shane, you could watch a player, see him on film or watch him play on television, but then when you played against him, how much did you learn about the player then?
Well, you certainly learn their tendencies, right? And little details that, you're not going to find on a report on that player. They're going to have a little more insight, and it was very kind of them to help us out here. We're on the air a long time, and great to have these correspondents and give their inside look into some of these players.
Yeah, we're going to zoom them in, as appropriate as we move on here. Also, we will so Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, is in Secaucus, New Jersey, so everything's going to be basically handled from there. So you'll hear his voice when he's going to, in essence, the podium to announce the picks. Of course, Alexis Lafrenière, the consensus #1 pick, the New York Rangers. They're the first team to get the #1 pick overall that played in the playoffs that same year, right? Since the Minnesota North Stars. It happened with the North Stars back in 1983. Rhode Island's own Brian Lawton was #1 overall that year. But just how strange, the times we're in, where the expanded playoffs, they have to change the lottery system. And the Rangers, who took Capo Caco #2 last year, they've only had the #1 pick once in their history, Shane, and they've been around a few years.
1965?
1965. You remember Andre Veilleux, Gary?
I do.
Okay.
I didn't need to pick up my sheet for that. It's right up
right
here,
on the
Dave.
top of the coconut. It's the only time the Rangers have had the first overall pick. But and they will get, by all accounts, a franchise-changing player in a few minutes here in Lafrenière.
You make a really interesting point. I wonder when the last time a team won the Stanley Cup and had their first overall pick. I will take a stab and suggest it was the Montreal Canadiens and Guhle.
Oh, it could very well be. That's when they had it all rigged, right?
They did.
Montreal had their Quebec province.
Sam Pollock had it wired pretty good.
Yeah, they had some pretty good success there, to say the least. So the Golden Knights, they don't pick until 29th. There's teams here that have Ottawa Senators have 3 picks in the first round, including 2 in the top 5. You have the New Jersey Devils, who had 3 picks in the first round. They had Nico Hischier as the #1 pick a couple of years ago. Then they had Jack Hughes just last year. So, a chance for teams. And by all accounts, we had Sam Constantino on earlier, Shane, on our Nighttime at Noon show, and he talked about the depth of this draft. He said he wouldn't be surprised if the Golden Knights, who did not have a pick in the second round, if they try to change that, they've got a couple of thirds, because he thinks from players 25 to 50, you could get a really good player in there. They have the 29th pick, but if they could maybe get themselves into that top 50 window, they could maybe have access to another really good
It's kind of like different grades in that, 1 to 50. Like #1, he's on his own. Then there's a block of players, next 15 guys, and then it's a very deep draft and a great opportunity. I think there's going to be a lot of movement. Not only the Golden Knights, you mentioned Ottawa. They've reported they're willing to trade not their third pick, but after that, possibly one of those two picks. There's going to be some movement, I think, here. Players they're in the league. This is all Gary's area. This is what keeps him up at night, excited.
The Habs won the Stanley Cup in 1971, and they drafted Guy Lafleur in the spring of '71 as well. So now someone may have done it since then. That was just that kind of stuck out for me. This is
71, by the way. They upset the team from Boston. Ken Dryden.
Upset? I don't think they upset them.
They did. Bruins won in 70 and 72, and then the Dryden guy came out and beat him in 71.
What a shame.
I don't remember any of it, but what were you going to say? I'm sure something very personal.
Well, there's already been a massive trade today.
Yes.
And, Josh Anderson goes from Columbus to Montreal, and Max Domi and a third-round pick go to Columbus. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I don't get this one.
I don't understand this trade at all from Columbus's position. Now they get a centerman in Max Domi that I think they wanted to, that's an area where they needed to improve, but taking a pretty big piece in Josh Anderson out of your lineup. Now he has had some injury issues, so and obviously Jarmo Kekalainen is an excellent GM and he knows his roster.
It's all about the fit for the team, right?
Exactly, for sure. So,
well, we were talking earlier, though, Gary, when Columbus came into Vegas 2 seasons ago now, Josh Anderson was the best player on the ice that night. He was phenomenal. He had 27 goals that year, but only 26 games this past season, only 1 goal. So you wonder, obviously injuries were an issue, but a heck of a move by Mark Bergevin and the Canadiens to pick up a young player like Anderson. And for Max Domi, this is his 3rd team now, right? Arizona for a bunch of years, and goes to Montreal, now Columbus, and to see how that works out. We mentioned earlier today, Gary, there's so much buzz
I think
around
we're going to the draft, Dave.
Are we going to the
Gary
draft?
Bettman's on the podium.
Gary Bettman.
Are built. Another aspect of the draft that remains unchanged, whether it is held in late June or early October, is that it serves as the pivot point at which the league turns its attention from the season just completed to the one coming up next. It was just over a week ago that we celebrated the successful completion of our 2019-20 return to play with the crowning of the Tampa Bay Lightning as Stanley Cup champions. And tonight, following discussions with the NHL Players Association, and based on what we have learned and what we know and what we even still don't know, I can say that we are now focused on a January 1 start for next season. Given the increasing impact that talented young players are making in our game, we can expect that there will be prospects chosen who tonight will make their NHL debuts on opening night of next season. And we can't wait to welcome them to our league and to be amazed by what they can do. So let's get started. In the first round, Once a team is put on the clock, teams will have 5 minutes to make their selections. The first selection in the 2020 NHL Draft belongs to the New York Rangers. New York Rangers, you are on the clock.
So we're looking at
Yes.
We can see the Rangers in their boardroom, and then they're showing Alex Lafrenière and his family. I don't know where they look like they're at a hotel in a ballroom or something.
They could be somewhere.
That doesn't look like a home.
Looks like a really nice house if it's a house.
That's good for them.
All right, yeah. Maybe he's already spending some of the dough. So we'll wait to hear Jeff Gorton, the general manager of the Rangers, announce this young man's name.
Yeah, there's no question who's going number one.
Well, and it's amazing this young man, right? He was supposed to be drafted in June, and now he's had to kind of sit and wait.
Well, then he
and
didn't know he
wait
was
and
like
wait.
he didn't know who had the first pick.
Didn't know who had the pick, the whole 9
And
yards.
he had to wait
you know.
for that too.
Yeah.
The lottery system that kind of put him in a position. Not only did he not get drafted, he didn't know who was going to have that selection.
Pretty good news when he found out it was the New York Rangers. They've got a great young team. It is a fantastic city to live and work in. So, pretty exciting stuff.
So Alexis Lafrenière is about to become the first overall pick in the NHL draft for the New York Rangers. And, as Gary mentioned, you've got Capo Caco that was taken last year, number 2 overall. They've made some moves here, just recently buying out Henrik Lundqvist. They have 2 really young goaltenders they like, in Igor Shesterkin and also in Alexander Georgiev. So they, and it's interesting, Shane, and we've kind of talked about this. A couple of years ago, they made it public. They sent a letter out to their season ticket holders and their fans. It's time to start the rebuild. Well, they've got a terrific young player in Kako last year, and now said by all accounts, Alexis Lafrenière, who's had just an amazing run, the CHL Player of the Year, the best player in junior hockey the last 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
The last player to do that was Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. Same team.
Same
This
team.
is an
Rabuski,
impressive
right?
player, size, hockey IQ, speed, strength, just every attribute you look for in a hockey player. And at that age, to be at the level he is, you just don't see very often. So for the Rangers, and Dave mentioned, great young team, but also they signed Panarin, they trade for Jacob Trouba. This is a team that is what we thought would be a slow turnaround has been a very fast movement into what is going to be a very good hockey team next season.
I called the scout today to ask a little bit about him, and the thing that he said to me about him was he can really make plays. He's got some pace, but he's a big man. He's 6'3", 200 pounds already. He's really hard to knock off the puck. He doesn't have edge per se, but he's will play physical and is good down low. Then the kind of we used to sort of put players in a basket where you said, oh, he's a playmaker or a shooter. Well, he's both. He can make plays, but he can also finish them, and that's a very explosive piece for him. He's a winger though, and who do you play him with? Shane, right away with Panarin or Zibanejad also had a fantastic finish as well.
You got options. Zibanejad is going to be center, so I would see him more, having that opportunity to play with Panarin, which is a pretty good way to start off your NHL career.
Yeah.
And you've heard a lot of people that feel that this guy can come in right away and contribute. Like, not a player that comes in slow, but feels he can be like a 60-point guy in year one, which you put up those type of numbers, usually that leads to a Calder Trophy.
He's used to being number 1, Shane. He was number 1 pick in the Quebec draft, the QMJHL back in 2017. He was the number 1 rookie in the CHL in 2018. Number 1 player in the league in the CHL, all of Canadian junior hockey, back-to-back years. Also the number 1 player, top player of the World Junior Tournament last year when he helped.
And he got injured.
Canada
win
a gold medal. And now he's about to become the number 1 pick overall in the NHL draft in 2020. So Alexis Lafrenière, a huge moment for this young man, and he's a late birthday too, right? He turns 19 in 5 days.
Yeah, that's usually the
He
best.
played
The late birthdays are those are the players you want.
Yeah, you get born in early November, mid-October, whatever it might be. So But, yeah, what a moment for this young man that a lot of people have compared him to, if you think back to Gilbert Perreault, the great career he had with the Buffalo Sabres, part of that French connection line that the Sabres had. I heard an interview with Lafrenière earlier today. He compared himself. He likes to model his game after Mikko Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche, who's had a great career. Here's Commissioner Gary Bettman once again.
2020 NHL Draft will be made by New York Rangers General Manager Jeff Gorton.
With the first pick in the 2020 NHL Draft, the New York Rangers are proud to select from the Rimouski Oceanic, Alexis Lafrenière.
So Alexis Lafrenière officially becomes the first overall pick in the 2020 NHL Draft, and we are watching on a monitor here, surrounded by family, his parents, and I believe his sister.
If that's his dad, you can see where he got his size. His dad's about 4 inches, 5 inches taller than him.
And Alexis Lafrenière 6'1". So, yeah, it's
well, that's a first, having the dad go get the jersey.
Yeah, well, you know what, though? A great moment. And it's not easy to have that selection and have it ready, but this one was pretty much nailed down who was going to go number 1 overall in a great moment as him and his family posed for a picture in Rangers gear, and the first selection of 2020 is over.
Yeah, and a big moment for Alexis Lafrenière as he is the official number 1 pick in the draft.
NHL Draft will be made by the Los Angeles Kings. Los Angeles, you're on the clock.
First time in 5 years, by the way, that the first overall pick is a Canadian player. You got to go back to 2015 when the Edmonton Oilers took Connor McDavid with the first overall pick in 2015. There has not been a Quebec-born number 1 overall pick in the NHL since Marc-Andre Fleury went number 1 overall to the Pittsburgh Penguins back in 2003. Back to the draft we go. Oh, highlights. We have highlights going on right now. Those of you watching on our, my mistake.
We're figuring a
we
few
got all
things
sorts
out.
We're on so many platforms.
What's going on here?
It's an ambitious endeavor.
I'm already confused.
We're on the radio. We're also doing some stream, and we're trying to go to New York, and we're trying to go to every other team in the NHL. So we'll by pick 5, it'll be seamless.
By tomorrow in round 6.
Clean it up, Gosher.
Exactly right. But Alexis Lafrenière going number 1 overall, and as we said, some of his as you see on our stream side right now, some of his work playing for Rimouski in the Quebec League, where he just had 2 fantastic seasons back-to-back, 112 points this past year on the strength of 35 goals. And you mentioned, Shane, a huge tournament that we look forward to every year, enormous in Canada. The World Junior Tournament, where he missed a couple of games with a knee injury, still came back, was the best player in the tournament. And as you continue to look on our video side of our coverage here today, some of his work from Rimouski over the last couple of years.
So that was an automatic, right?
Yeah, now it gets interesting.
Yes.
And there's some things here that are like every team didn't approach this the same way.
No.
There were some teams. Vegas had the resources to do everything they wanted to do to get prepared for this. Some teams may have not. Some teams may have not, figured out Zoom and Microsoft Teams and the ability to hold all your meetings and to do a good job on your combine stuff. All of those things come to this moment. Some teams might make mistakes. There may be some teams not as prepared as they would like to be. There may be some teams that arrive today and they're not feeling great about, the position they're in. Now, I don't think that there's going to be a mistake here. I think, LA at the very top there, there's 2 really good players available right now, Quentin Byfield and Tim Stutzle, and you have to decide which one of those you want to get. And
is it Stutzle or Stutzle?
Stutzle.
Okay.
It's German, so you got to get the
Stutzle.
I'm scared. The name scares me.
I know, it scared me too.
Truly an accident waiting to happen.
I'm just saying it really fast and hoping I get out of it without a car accident.
Well, it's amazing when you think about it, guys. The LA Kings, who, 2+ years ago now, they were taking on the Golden Knights in the playoffs, and now here they are ending up with the number 2 pick in the NHL Draft. They've obviously, the window for those championship teams of 2012 and 2014, that's slammed shut. Now they're trying to, begin their rebuild with a number 2 overall pick. Gary mentioned, so you've got Lafrenière at his own level, first overall pick. The next tier, it's either going to be Quinton Byfield, a big, raw kid, 6'4", 215, who played in the OHL in Sudbury. He just turned 18 a month and a half ago. Or Tim Stutzle, who led all rookies playing over in the German league last year, plays center, plays wing. Just a matter of which one do the Kings go. They haven't had the number 2 overall pick since Doughty back in 2008, and of course he's had a great run with the Kings, including a couple of Stanley Cups. But to your point, Gary, Lafrenière at his own level, and now it's basically either Byfield or Stutzle, and then from there you kind of trickle down to the next group of players.
It's interesting. I'm just looking right now. They're comparing Byfield to Anze Kopitar and Stutzle to Patrick Kane. So
yes,
it's been a lot of.
Well, I would suggest to you that LA doesn't need another Anze Kopitar. They got one, and just me, Patrick Kane. I still think is one of the best players in the National Hockey League.
Dynamite.
And it's just you get quite a piece. Stutzle is really fast.
Really,
he might be the best skater in the draft. He can fly.
And Golden Knights fans, and you think about keeping an eye on what teams around them and teams in the division are doing. You got the LA Kings, one of the Golden Knights' biggest rival here, with the number 2 overall pick. There's also been a lot of Evgeny Malkin comparisons to Quinton Byfield. Big kid, as we said, 6'4". He was also part of that gold medal World Junior team that took gold not quite a year ago. No. And a lot of people are saying he's got the biggest upside in the draft. Still a little bit raw in his game. Here's Commissioner Gary Bettman once again.
The second selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Vice President and General Manager of the Los Angeles Kings, Rob Blake.
The Los Angeles Kings are proud to select with the second pick in the 2020 NHL Draft from Sudbury Wolves in the Ontario Hockey League, Quinton Byfield.
So Quinton Byfield goes number 2, and the LA Kings have themselves a big, young, powerful forward in Quinton Byfield. We have a shot of him on. So he's dressed up he's got the bow tie,
he
right?
Looks sharp.
He looks like $1 million.
That's
He
right.
loves the bow ties. I
Yes.
guess he's got a big collection of them, over 20 of them. I, for one, do not know how to tie one whatsoever. But anyways, Quinton Byfield, the number 2 pick to the LA Kings, as we continue on with our draft coverage from Rock Creek Cattle Company. We'll step aside, come back. Number 3 pick coming up next, and we'll have that for you and lots more. Our first-round draft coverage continuing. Ottawa Senators will be on the board next on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. I got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting down there. They're all living the devil may care. Well, I'm just a devil with a lot of despair. So Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas. Oh, I wish that.
Golden Knight fans, it's your boy Lil Jon. Yeah, Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas.
Little John, ho ho ho. You know what would make this song so Vegas?
What's that, Wayne?
Hit it.
And great to have you with us from Rock Creek Cattle Company in Deer Lodge, Montana. Our draft coverage brought to you by Ahern Rentals with over 54,000 pieces of rental equipment available nationwide. Ahern Rentals is ready to support your next project in construction, industrial, landscaping, and more. Ahern Rentals, Vegas-born since 1953. Dave Gosher, Shane Knighty, Gary Lawless. Great to have you with us here. Special week for the Golden Knights organization, but also for the NHL, a virtual NHL draft. We have 2 picks already down. Alexis Lafrenière, number 1 overall to the New York Rangers. Quinton Byfield goes number 2 to the LA Kings. Next up, Shane, the Ottawa Senators, who have number 3 and number 5. They also have a pick later on in the first round. They have 3 first-round picks, but this pick, the 3rd pick, and they're on the clock right now. They get about 1:25 to go to make their selection. This is still part of the Erik Karlsson trade when he was sent to San Jose a couple of years ago.
Yeah, San Jose, yeah, and Erik Karlsson not in his prime, but anyways, good for the Ottawa Senators, who are in a complete rebuild right now with, you think of the players, they've completely transformed that team. Obviously we think Erik Karlsson, you think of Mark Stone, you think of Mika Zibanejad, but 3 pretty good players that were drafted by Ottawa but have moved on. And for them right now, you wonder if that pick by LA threw them off. Maybe they thought they had Byfield and, Stutzle, is that where they're going to go? Or then there's Drysdale, a defenseman. A couple options here for Ottawa where they need, what fits best, but mostly you take the best player available.
The Ottawa Senators, the last time they had the number 3 pick in the draft, bonkers. Radek Bonk.
Oh, I played with Radek
in 1994.
Yes.
Of course, they had a high pick a couple of years ago. They took Brady Tkachuk inside the top 10, but now the next step in their rebuild, and they'll have the number 3 pick here coming up momentarily.
9 picks in the first 3 rounds. 3 in the first, 4 in the second, and 2 in the 3rd round. So, but it's kind of dangerous though. Yes. It's a lot of picks, and
we talked about this the other day with the Bruins, 3 in a row.
Yeah. Here's Gary Bettman again.
To make the 3rd selection in the 2020 NHL Draft, the Senators have enlisted the services of a special guest who also happens to be a graduate of the University of Ottawa.
Here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
Thank you, Johnny. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Jeopardy. Our category today is the NHL, and here is the clue for you. With the 3rd pick in the 2020 NHL Draft, the Ottawa Senators choose this player. The correct response, who is Tim Stutzle?
And there is Alex Trebek making the selection for the Ottawa Senators. A couple of things. Great to see Alex Trebek. Looks good. We had a shot of him on our monitor. Of course, he's been battling cancer for a few years. A proud Canadian. And he makes the announcement for the Ottawa Senators. Tim Stutzle goes number 3 in the draft. We said it was kind of, you were going to flip a coin.
Yeah.
Who was going to go 2, who was going to go 3. You knew it was either going to be Byfield or Stutzle. But it is Tim Stutzle. Said another really good young player as a 17-year-old last year, played against men in the German Elite League, led the league in rookie scoring, supposedly a great skater, jumped up 14 spots in draft rankings, real dynamic player, and he's the newest Ottawa Senator.
Well, it's kind of funny he goes number 3 because there's another German-born number 3 overall that just won the Hart Trophy in the Art Ross.
And that would be?
Leon Draisaitl.
Yes.
It's amazing
exactly
when
right.
you think about it. It's kind of coincidence, but German. He's been able to. All these other countries are really developing. Switzerland
and Germany have made the biggest
strides
in international hockey.
So Tim Stutzle is the number 3 pick. Gary Bettman again.
Nothing but the best, and we're delighted that you're such a big NHL fan. The 4th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft belongs to the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit, you're on the clock.
So now it's interesting because the top 3 guys that we kind of expected to be that first layer, they're off the board. I'm not sure Detroit doesn't go to Jake Sanderson here. That kind of skill in a defenseman. If you're Steve Yzerman is starting a rebuild, what a great way to go to get a young D and then give him time because they take longer, Shane. So if you draft a really good D and then it takes him a few years to arrive, he might be ready to go just as you've put some other pieces in around him.
Well, there's a couple D, and then there's also Jamie Drysdale.
Yeah.
So, are they going to go for a defenseman, or are they going to look, for a forward? There's still a lot of good players, and, for the Detroit Red Wings, think of the season they had, and everybody expected them to have the best odds for that number 1, but they fall to number 4.
Yeah.
Not a situation Steve Yzerman wanted to see his club in, but, opportunity here to get a really good player at this 4th pick. And, this is the area where we said, I think you can interchange the next, 5-6 players about where they can go in order.
Steve Yzerman knows what it's like. He went number 4 in the draft to the Red Wings back in 1983, and then, an iconic career, 3-time Stanley Cup champion over 22 years in Detroit. You think about, he was a big part of really building the Tampa Bay team that just won the Stanley Cup, left to go back to Detroit, to the team that he had a legendary career with. I just wanted to kind of update myself. It was last year that 2 years ago, Ottawa had the number 4 pick with Brady Tkachuk. Now they have the number 3 pick this year with Tim Stutzle. Sandwiched between the 3rd and 5th picks for Ottawa, the Detroit Red Wings, as they are on the board right now. And, to your point, Shane, this is a Red Wings team that, playoffs year after year.
They need needs everywhere.
And, now they're now they've got a lot of needs that they are going to try to fill, and they'll try to fill it here with a real good young player.
But as Gary mentioned talking earlier, I think this is now we're getting into that area where some teams may go in a different direction than what was expected, which shakes up the other teams, and it gets a little more interesting. Or after this, I think 1, 2, and 3. Well, at least 1 we knew, 2 and 3 are kind of interchangeable. And now there's a lot of different options for the Detroit Red Wings to go, and what they do may affect picks 5, 6, and 7.
Pretty open by all accounts. Once you got past the top 3, and maybe a block of players, a dozen to 15 that could go in any order here as you make your way down the draft board. Again, the Golden Knights have their first-round pick. It's going to be a little bit, 29th in the first round for the VGK. We mentioned the Ottawa Senators earlier, Gary. You talked about all their picks. They have more picks than anybody in this draft.
It's crazy.
13, but as you said, certainly heavy early on in the draft picks that they have.
Inside, are they going to take their 5th pick, you think, after this, Ottawa, or are we going to get movement?
They're going to take it, I think. So Ottawa, this is in the first round, they have their own pick. They have a pick from the Islanders, a pick from the Sharks. Second round, their own pick from the Blue Jackets, pick from the Stars, pick from the Islanders. Third round, their own pick from the Jets, no pick in the 4th. 5th round, they don't have their own pick. They've got Tampa's. In the 6th, they don't have their own pick. They've got San Jose's and St. Louis's, and they don't have a pick in the 7th. Now, they could move back. You are right. That 5th pick, there is that next layer is pretty big. It kind of goes, the first 3 guys I think were 1 layer, and now I think you go maybe as low as 10, 11, or 12 for that next grouping. Then you have another grouping, sort of 7 to 8 players. Very interesting the way the first round is layered in terms of different groups.
Well, and to Shane's point earlier, the Red Wings were dead last in the NHL, and it wasn't even close. When the pause came, they had 39 points. They were 23 points behind Ottawa in the overall league standings, but then obviously the pandemic and everything changed after that in so many ways.
And the lottery did not go.
And the lottery did not go Detroit's way.
We're
but
seeing,
they're about 30 seconds away on the clock here from making their picks. So
they seem to be. They're all busy. There's lots of scribbling going on there in Detroit.
It's interesting to see how all the different teams are set up
Yes.
in different ways in their war room and ready to make their picks.
The best setup, of course, is the one that we're in right now.
Well, yes.
Yeah, this is. I don't see anybody so far in a setup like we have here in Rock Creek. Back we go to Gary Bettman.
The 4th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Detroit Red Wings Director of Amateur Scouting, Chris Draper.
With the 4th pick in the 2020 entry draft, the Detroit Red Wings are very excited to select from Frölunda Lucas Raymond.
Also, Lucas Raymond goes to Detroit. And some of the research materials we had, they had him at number 6 in some of the rankings. But, he goes 4th to Detroit, native of Gothenburg, Sweden. Great city over there where Robin Lehner is from as well. And, you see a player like Lucas Raymond, Shane. There's another good young player in this draft in the first round, Alexander Holtz. They were teammates on that Frölunda team last year. But a player that by most accounts able to come up big in the big moments. For Golden Knights fan, this would have been the league William Karlsson played in, right? The Swedish Elite League. And what a moment for Lucas Raymond, who becomes the 4th overall pick, and it goes to the Detroit Red Wings.
The 5th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa, you're on the clock again.
Lucas Raymond, 5'10", 161 pounds, plays left wing, super slick puck handler, is an offensive catalyst. So that's an interesting pick. Some lists had him out of the top 10.
Yeah, speed, lots of speed,
Yep.
and one thing I've known about the Detroit Red Wings is they do pretty good with their European draft picks out of the blue.
Yeah.
They had another Swedish kid
They've
named
had-
Henrik Zetterberg, who went. It turned out to be not too bad. He was drafted way later, like 6th, 7th round.
Well, they had a pretty good Swedish defenseman there too.
Yeah,
named
Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah,
he was all right. Thomas
okay.
Holtz. They can go on and on. So if there's any team that maybe has an insider, has certainly had the past of being able to draft well, it's them.
Let's step aside real quick. We'll come back. More of our draft coverage. Round number 1, the Ottawa Senators up next at number 5 in a moment on Fox Sports Las Vegas. William Karlsson looking for his second shorthanded goal in as many nights. And shot, score! What a goal! Through his own legs!
Well, I think it's going to be gold. Yeah, and I expect just the best. That's what I expect. I've heard rumors about gold. That's my prediction. It's going to be golden jersey. Oh, we see a letter. Ooh, cool box, eh? That's nice. It is gold, eh? That is sick. I expected that. Wow, I'm surprised how like gold it is, you know? This one is so sick. Always advance, never retreat. Bill Foley. I was hesitant how like they can make this gold, but they did a good job. They did a great job. This is also the name of the new captain. There we go. Captain Karlsson. Is that for me? Yeah. By the way, I'm not the captain. All right. Now we got a pair of sick kicks. Ooh. That's gold. Those are sick shoes, though. So I'm gonna just put these on, I guess. Ooh. I'm still waiting for my gold hat. There we go. I hope it fits. There we go. That's my gold hat. This is Jonathan Marchessault, and this is So Vegas. I'm William Karlsson, and this is So Vegas. Maybe we can get some golden gloves. That's gold right there. This might as well be real gold. I'm wearing all gold. The golden Sparta. I feel golden.
So we've had the top 4 picks in the NHL draft. Alexis Lafrenière, number 1 overall to the New York Rangers. Quinton Byfield, number 2 to the LA Kings. Tim Stutzle, number 3 to the Ottawa Senators. Lucas Raymond, number 4 to the Detroit Red Wings. Now the Senators have their second pick in the top 5, and we're about 20 seconds away that they have left on the clock. We mentioned the Red Wings, who they've had this ability to find European players, and we're going to go right now back to Gary Bettman.
The 5th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Ottawa Senators General Manager Pierre Dorion.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Alex Trebek for helping us with our 3rd selection. We'd also like to welcome Tim Stutzle to the organization. Les Sénateurs d'Ottawa sont très fiers de choisir. The Ottawa Senators are real proud to select from the United States National Team Development Program and the University of North Dakota, Jake Sanderson.
So Jake Sanderson from Whitefish, Montana, is the first defenseman taken in the draft. And son of Jeff Sanderson, of course, who had a terrific NHL career. But Jake Sanderson goes to the Ottawa Senators, and highest-rated American-born player in this draft. And what a moment for the state of Montana to have this young man go from Whitefish. His father, Jeff, played over 1,100 games in the NHL. Nobody born in Montana has ever played in the NHL. And now you've got Jake Sanderson going 5th overall, and the first defenseman taken in this year's draft as he goes to the Ottawa Senators.
Well, and selection, Gary just talked about, he's one of those names that kind of elevated up the list here as it went along, and he certainly, he mentioned the bloodlines, his dad, Jeff, so, and the interesting fact when he came up here is we knew we'd be doing this in Montana, and then all of a sudden I did not know that he's from Whitefish, so pretty special moment for the Sanderson family, and a solid pick here for the Ottawa Senators.
Well, he can really skate, and his father was a burner in the NHL. Could really
forward though. He's forward and
yeah, for sure. But this guy can really skate, and he's got some toughness in the bloodlines as well. The Brookbank brothers, Wade and Sheldon. Wade could really throw them. Had a strong American League career. Sheldon started as a forward, became a D, really kind of did what he had to do to play in the NHL and stuck around for a long time. So, and they're both 2 tough customers. I love this pick for Ottawa, but I'll foreshadow a little bit. I wonder what there have been rumors that Eric Brandstrom is on the trading block, and they had him in a package that they were trying to entice the Winnipeg Jets for the services of Patrick Laine. You draft a guy like this. Does this mean that it now makes
more enticing to move him?
Brandstrom a little expendable because they're not ready yet. Ottawa is going to be a few years away, and Sanderson is going to go to North Dakota for a year or 2, and then he'll then come out at a certain point in time. This is part of the draft that gets really interesting. Did they just draft for the right player, but also for a little bit of a need?
Jake Sanderson, number 5 to the Ottawa Senators. We're going to check in back at our City National Studios in Vegas. Darren Millard joining us. Mallard, what do you got? We thought we had.
We had him.
Maybe he fell over. He may not have. He was there a moment ago, but we'll check back in with Darren. The Anaheim Ducks, by the way, up next on the clock. They have the 6th pick. Just another note, guys, on Ottawa. They've been last or next to last 3 years in a row in the NHL overall. This is after they, you think about when they forced Pittsburgh to double overtime Game 7 of the East Final in 2017, and it's kind of been in a slow spiral in the wrong direction. But now you've got Stutzle at number 3, Sanderson at number 5. They do have another pick right before the Vegas pick, number 28. In the first round, and we'll see what they use there as well. But we'll try and check in again. Mallard, are you with us this time?
I am. Sorry, I'm trying to get used to this whole muted thing.
Did you fall over? Did you what happened to you?
Well, you're the one that sets the bar for me on this whole technical thing.
So it's low. It's really low.
Footsteps.
I love the idea of having a mute button for Mallard.
Max Domi was traded to Columbus for Josh Anderson. It's interesting. Columbus was having trouble signing Josh Anderson. His agent, Darren Ferris, is also the agent for Max Domi. So they didn't exactly help themselves in the communication there. This night did start, gentlemen, with Commissioner Gary Bettman revealing that the league, in conjunction with the National Hockey League Players Association, are focused on a January 1st start date for next season. So some news out of that. And Tim Stutzle was introduced by Alex Trebek. He is the third German-trained player to go in the top 6. And one more thing, Lucas Raymond. We heard you guys talking about how that was a big surprise going with the Swede who is projected to go a little bit later. Tell me, Shane, everybody in that around the National Hockey League right now is not looking around going, what do we miss there? Detroit's doing it again to us.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about, the Red Wings. And Dave just looked up, like Nick Lidstrom, thought he went later, but a third-round pick for one of the best defensemen ever to play the game. They've got a great history of being able to find those Swedish, Russian players that have really been diamonds in the rough. Although this is still a pretty high pick, but yeah, we'll see what.
It's also a new regime. The guy that did all that, Ken Holland, is now running Edmonton.
Yeah, but where did Steve Eiserman learn?
For sure.
And to your point, Mallard, last year they jumped up, right? They took Moritz Seider high last year. I don't think a lot of people had him that high last season either. So. But they do take Lucas Raymond here. So
well, thank goodness. We wouldn't want everything to just go by the list. This is what makes it interesting.
Yeah, good stuff.
And this is the organized part of the draft. Like the top 5, we kind of had a handle on the way things would go. It's chaos from here on out.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mallard. Thanks, man. We'll check back in with you in a little bit.
Be good.
So we're about a half a minute away or less on the Anaheim Ducks. They have the 6th pick in the draft, and they will be up next. An Anaheim team that's, trying to get younger as well. You think about some of the mainstays. They let Corey Perry go as a free agent in the offseason. Ryan Getzlaff still a big part of the mix. But, a team that is trying to get younger. And I don't know if it's I don't know if they would call it a rebuild completely, but they are certainly trying to significantly retool it. Here is the Anaheim pick.
Anaheim Ducks Executive Vice President and General Manager Bob Murray will make the 6th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
It's the moment we've all been waiting for. The pick is in.
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 The pick is in. The pick is in.
The pick is in. The pick is in.
The pick is in.
The pick is in. The pick is in.
The pick is in.
The pick is in.
The pick is in.
The pick is in. Woohoo!
That's great stuff. Little video montage by Ducks fans. Here's Bob Murray.
With the 6th pick in the 2020 draft, the Anaheim Ducks are proud to select from the Erie Otters, Jamie Drysdale.
Yep. Now, Jamie Drysdale goes to the Anaheim Ducks, number 6. Real highly touted defenseman. There were some materials we had that had him as high as 4.
I wonder how happy Anaheim is that he's still available.
Who drafts defensemen better than the Anaheim Ducks?
Maybe they found a replacement for Theodore.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was looking at it. They have had a great history of drafting really good defensemen and developing them. So Jamie Drysdale, good bloodlines from Canada. He's a fine young player. It'd be interesting to see, Anaheim, their rebuild is – they're right at the start of it. Yeah. So do they rush a kid like him? Can he play right away, or does he have to get seasoned a little bit?
Well, he probably has to put. He's not a big player, and that's the thing. But I think more than anything, if you look at the state of the NHL right now and young defensemen, Quinn Hughes, he doesn't need size. Cale Makar, young, been able to jump right in. And actually, Drysdale, one of the comparisons is that like a Cale Makar, very offensive-minded. His mobility, say, he's a guy that can control the game.
Most points last year by a single
New Jersey Devils.
Devils will be up next. That's it. You can hear Gary Bettman. The Devils will be number 7 now in the draft. So, for Jamie Drysdale, who had a terrific year last year with Erie, a couple of years ago, I should say, set a single-season defenseman record. Most points by a rookie blue liner are for Erie. But, you mentioned Shane, offensive instincts, basically a point-a-game player for them last year. And, you think about Hampus Lindholm, Sammy Vatanen, Cam Fowler, Shea Theodore, all those players that, the Ducks have drafted on the back end over the years, and now the latest of which is Jamie Drysdale.
Well, and everything you hear about him is his skating, mobility, which is so important for a defenseman. We see that for Golden Knights fans. You look at Shea Theodore, his ability to skate, his ability to be mobile. It's so important for a defenseman now, especially an offensive-minded one. He even kind of said in his little bio that he took figure skating lessons when he's younger, and I'm regretting turning down when my mom offered him to
Shea
me.
Theodore
I might have been a better skater.
That's right.
Shea Theodore started with figure skating lessons as well, so
you really learn your you learn your edges a lot.
I started with figure skating.
I'm not
too.
surprised.
So
it didn't help.
It didn't do anything for me.
You could have listened to Diane 90. So anyway, we're taking a look right now at some highlights of Jamie Drysdale, as we said, on our stream side. Of course, thank you for joining us on our social media channels, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and also on your radio home for the Golden Knights, Fox Sports Las Vegas 98.9 FM. But on the video side of our coverage, you continue to look at some highlights of Jamie Drysdale, just taken a moment ago, 6th overall by the Anaheim Ducks in the 2020 NHL Draft. So you've got Ottawa that had 2 picks in the top 5. They went with a forward and a defenseman, and, of course, the defenseman, Jake Sanderson from Whitefish, Montana. No one from Montana has ever played in the NHL, and by all accounts, Jake Sanderson is going to break that mold. And now the Devils on the clock, their new GM, Tom Fitzgerald. They have about 3 minutes to get their selection in at number 7.
Yeah, some guys they'll be looking at: Alexander Holtz out of the Swedish Elite League, Cole Perfetti, who plays for Saginaw in the Ontario Hockey League, and Marco Rossi, not a fast skater, but a really off the charts hockey sense. It'll be interesting to see which way they go.
Do they need a goalie?
Would they go that high?
Well, you think of New Jersey,
they basically have Blackwood, right? Yeah.
So Yaroslav Askarov, right, is supposed to be one of the most highly touted goaltenders here.
I don't know, Gary. I'm just suggesting.
No, I hear
look
you.
at some of the teams.
Yeah, well, some lists have Askarov in the top 10. So other lists have him as low as 15. It would be a very interesting pick.
You don't see goaltenders taken in the top 10
and I'm not a
too
fan
often,
of it.
right?
No, I'm not a fan of it. I think you can find your goaltender. Goaltenders can develop. You've seen that over and over, but it just it's to the needs. But right now, I think we're still in an area where you got to take the best player you feel is available.
There have been comparisons with Yaroslav Askarov to Vasilevsky, but also Carey Price in terms of highly touted. Came in 2000. He went 5th overall.
They say he's the best goaltending prospect, highest ranked since Carey Price. Anton Lundell is a guy that I'm interested in too. I think he's going to climb, and I don't know if New Jersey goes that way right now, but that's an interesting name. I'm fascinated to see how far Marco Rossi drops because some lists had him pretty high.
The New Jersey Devils, we've mentioned they've had 2 of the last 3 years. They've had the number 1 pick, right? Nico Hischier a couple of years ago. Then it took Jack Hughes last year. There have been comparisons. Shane, you mentioned Andrei Vasilevsky. They're saying Askarov is a right-handed catching goaltender. They're saying he's a right-handed catching version of Vasilevsky, who went 19th overall to Tampa Bay back in 2012 and just helped them, of course, win the Stanley Cup not too long ago. But again, you don't see a lot of goalies that high. But that being said, Devils would know better than most franchises if you can plop Marty Brodeur in your net for almost 20 years or whatever.
Yes.
That's and you have that. It is literally irreplaceable if you can find someone.
But the Devils have need. They're one of those teams that could use it at every position. They have a lot of needs, and this is an opportunity to take the best player they can and move forward. As the Devils, as you said, a couple of real high picks in Hischier and Hughes.
And we'll go back to Gary Bettman momentarily. Of course, new GM and Tom Fitzgerald, new head coach in New Jersey, and Lindy Ruff, who left the Rangers as an assistant to go to the swamps of Jersey. And we go back to Gary Bettman.
New Jersey Devils general manager Tom Fitzgerald will make the 7th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
The New Jersey Devils are proud to select from Djurgården right winger Alexander Holtz.
So Tom Fitzgerald announcing the move of Alexander Holtz as he goes to the New Jersey Devils with the 7th overall pick. Real good player, sniper, terrific goal scorer out of Djurgården in the Swedish League. He's the 7th pick to the Devils. We will step aside and let's check in. How about if we have a little draft day memory? Let's hear what it was like for Alec Martinez to get drafted by the LA Kings. More in a moment. Our first round coverage on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Hey Vegas, this is Alec Martinez, and this is my draft day story. I was passed over my first 2 years. This was my 3rd year of eligibility.
They just drafted that kid to play beside Nico Hischier.
Just finished my freshman year at Miami, and I knew that there was a little bit of chatter that maybe I would get drafted, but I didn't really expect it. And on draft day, I was just driving around my hometown and looked down, and I got a text message saying that I was drafted. And then subsequently, my agent called me, and then so did the LA Kings, and notified me. And then someone after the fact was nice enough to let me know that, in fact, at the draft, they did not have a nameplate for me to put up because no one thought I was going to get drafted. So I can't remember exactly who that was, but whoever it is, thanks for letting me know. It made me feel great.
The Henderson Silver Knights have a name and logo. Be the first to night up with the official HSK gear. Available now at the Arsenal and VegasTeamStore.com. Get your inaugural men's and women's Henderson Silver Knights t-shirts and hats and be the first ones to represent the Valley's newest team. Don't miss out. Go Knights, go. And great to have you with us here from Rock Creek in beautiful Deer Lodge, Montana. Dave, Shane, and Gary with you as round one of the NHL Draft well underway. 7 picks into it. The New Jersey Devils most recently taking Alexander Holtz, who, as we said, real good player, playing out in the Swedish League a couple of years ago, had 30 goals in 38 games. So they do go, the Devils, with a forward out of Sweden. And next up, the Buffalo Sabres awaiting with the 8th overall pick.
Kevin Adams, the new GM, has been working the phones there. He's taken a couple of calls. Buffalo has been open for business in terms of they want players that are ready to play right now. So if you've got
the 8th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Buffalo Sabres General Manager Kevin Adams.
We would first like to congratulate the Tampa Bay Lightning on their Stanley Cup championship and also say thank you to everyone at the National Hockey League for all the great work they did under challenging circumstances. The Buffalo Sabres are proud to announce from the Ottawa 67s and the Ontario Hockey League, Jack Quinn.
So Jack Quinn goes to the Buffalo Sabres. Kevin Adams, the relatively new GM of the Buffalo Sabres, and you know, everything that they've been dealing with here over the last little while, rumors of they're going to move Jack Eichel, not move him. They've talked, they say they have no intention of trading Jack Eichel, but
this is where we're talking. Jack Quinn was a little lower down. He's kind of out of the top 10 in most lists, but here he goes and on number 8 to Buffalo. And
talk about a goal scorer, Shane.
Yeah.
52 goals in 62 games last year, playing for Ottawa in the OHL.
Compared to David Pastrnak, who certainly knows how to score goals for the Boston Bruins. And the Buffalo Sabres, you know, Gary said, interesting, they're going to develop, but this is a team that needs to turn that franchise around now.
Well, he has the speed to play with Jack Eichel. He can really burn, and he has great instincts. He goes to the net. He's got the ability to get his shot off in traffic. He's a guy that, you know, some players will play right away. It's interesting. He was down a little lower on some lists, 11, I believe, on a few, and as far down as 20 on some. So an interesting pick. And now we're seeing two guys that have dropped a bit. Marco Rossi and Cole Perfetti are players that were expected to go a little higher, and they are now they're now falling. So this gets interesting for teams like, you know, not Vegas, not at 29. It doesn't affect them just yet, but teams like coming up here, Minnesota, then the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators, now they have different decisions to make.
On our stream side, you're looking at some highlights of Jack Quinn. We said terrific goal scorer. Some have said the best pure goal scorer in this year's draft. 52 goals in 62 games last year, playing for the Ottawa 67s in the OHL. He grew up an hour away from the Canadian Tire Center, the home of the Ottawa Senators. Big Ottawa Senators fan. And, you know, when I read this note on him, all it did was make me feel old. He jumped on the Ottawa Senators bandwagon in 2007 when they went to the Cup final and lost to Anaheim when he was a whopping 5 years old. Well, now he just got drafted by the Buffalo Sabres with the 8th overall pick, did Jack Quinn.
Well, I think it's one of those players that, you know, let's come out throughout a season, and I think he's a guy that really climbed and climbed. You just couldn't ignore that goal-scoring ability and, you know, pure sniping ability to put goals in the back of the net. A player like that is hard to find. And, you know, for the Buffalo Sabres, this is where Adams makes his first pick.
Well, as we said, Kevin Adams, new to the job of GM, brand new, just took over June 16th as the general manager of the Sabres. And
a lot of new general managers. We're going to have another one.
I know, Bill Guerin, right? Bill Guerin, who the new GM is, a year into it now, I guess, Minnesota Wild. He has been a busy man, right? Including most recently just yesterday, right? Trading Devin Dubnyk to the San Jose Sharks, signing Jonas Brodin to a long-term extension. There's been talk about trading Matt Dumba, fired Bruce Boudreau before the pause, traded Eric Stahl.
Not re-signing Mikko Koivu, longtime captain.
And his, you know, and it's he was quoted as, I can't remember after which trade it was, but saying, if I don't make moves, nothing is going to change. And I think, you know, you talk about the Wild chain and a team that just, they've had trouble just over the last bunch of years gaining much traction, first round at best and out. So Bill Guerin now in what will be his second year as GM, has not been shy about making changes.
So now we're in that kind of zone where obviously Marco Rossi and Cole Perfetti, guys that, were in a higher layer than, maybe the players that we're now in terms of a lot of lists. But now it comes up to your scouts. Who do they like? Like Maverick Bourque, for instance, is really high-end skilled player, maybe the least talked about skilled player in the top 20. He's still available. So now it's, I would imagine Bill Guerin has some people trying to make arguments at the table right now, saying we should draft this guy, we should draft this guy, and I think you have to be careful at this point. I think it's too early to fall into need, but
still take the best player.
Take the best player at this stage, yes.
So the Minnesota Wild, they're up next. They got about 1:20 left on their time on the clock with the 9th overall pick in the 2020 NHL Draft. As Gary mentioned just after that, the Winnipeg Jets, a lot of talk about Patrick Laine. They could potentially move him. The Nashville Predators follow after that. But the Minnesota Wild coming up next, who have made a slew of changes over the last several months, and now we'll see who they will pick. A reminder, the Golden Knights have the 29th pick, their first-round pick, and then, as they say, that will be in a little while. Ottawa Senators already have 2 picks in the bank. They've got another one later in the draft. The Devils have 2 more picks in this first round as well. And then we'll have just all first-round coverage here today, and then tomorrow, rounds 2 through 7. We've kind of touched on this, guys, but it bears repeating when you think about the importance. And now the Golden Knights, who at some point here, and we hope maybe just after the new year, are going to be entering into their 4th NHL season. They have already drafted well. You think of Cody Glass, you think of Nick Hague, you think of I know Zach Whitecloud was a free agent signing. You think of an Eric Brandstrom, who he's part of the Mark Stone trade. You think of Nick Suzuki, he's part of the Max Pacioretty trade. You can't make trades of that nature unless you draft well. Tampa Bay Lightning just won the Stanley Cup. 13 players on their roster were drafted and developed by the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it is the lifeblood of your organization. Not just the first round, but well beyond that. Here's Gary Bettman.
Minnesota Wild Executive Vice President and General Manager Bill Guerin will make the 9th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
First, I'd like to say hello to all our great Wild fans across the state of hockey in Minnesota. And a second hello to our assistant GM and brother, Tom Curvers, who's watching from home tonight. Now I'm proud to select with the 9th pick in the 2020 draft from the Ottawa 67s of the OHL, Marco Rossi.
Well, that's a name you mentioned, Gary, just a moment ago.
Yeah.
And Marco Rossi goes to Minnesota with the 9th overall pick. So that is it's an interesting pick by Bill Guerin, but you've got
talented.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this guy's all about hockey sense. He's small. He's not very fast. He's 5'9". He's not like not a burner, but he has a ton of hockey sense. Really sees the ice very well, and I think he fell to them. They would have had a discussion about it, but on Bob McKenzie had him as the best player still available, and the next guy. The next best player still available, according to Bob McKenzie right now, is Cole Perfetti. And you wonder if the Winnipeg Jets aren't going to dip into those waters.
If you're watching on our stream, you're watching some highlights of Marco Rossi. So that's back-to-back picks from the Ottawa 67s, Jack Quinn and Marco Rossi. Marco Rossi led all of junior hockey in scoring last season, 120 points for the Ottawa 67s in 56 games. Also the first European player in the entire to lead the entire league in scoring since Alexander Radulov did it back in 2006. So we are 9 picks down in the draft. Marco Rossi, the most recent one, as he goes to the Minnesota Wild. Some of the Golden Knights have been nice enough to share some of their draft day memories with us. I want to hear what it was like for Shea Theodore to get picked by the Anaheim Ducks, of course, since then, coming here to the Vegas Golden Knights. But Shea was a first-round pick of the Ducks in 2013. More first-round draft coverage continues after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Hey, Golden Knights fans, it's Shea Theodore here. My draft moment was in New Jersey in 2013, and I remember getting picked with the 26th pick and, hugging my family and walking out on stage. So, yeah, there's my draft moment.
Ahí viene el robo, se viene Roy lo tiene, Roy. Nicholas Roy con el primero, creo que en su carrera en esta temporada con los Vegas Golden Knights. Del otro lado está Cody Glass, no conectan con él, se suelta el puck, recupera el equipo de Vegas Golden Knights. Ese es Pacioretty, costado izquierdo, el pase. ¡Gol! ¡Gol! ¡Golazo de Cody Glass!
Y se vuelven a equivocar en la salida,
Ahí está,
lo regalan otra
portería.
vez. ¡Gol! Le quedó otra vez como regalito de Año Nuevo a Mark Stone y era la tercera ocasión que el equipo se equivoca. Me refiero a los Dogs, se equivocaban en la salida, regalan por tercera vez el puck enfrente de la portería y eso obviamente debido a la buena marca, la buena presión que estaban haciendo los delanteros del equipo de Vegas Golden Knights, pero ahora sí la aprovechó Mark Stone adentro que estamos cenando 1-1 el marcador.
Súmete que te quedó jabón, digo, el señor Mark Stone, y ahí estamos 1-1, señores. Nuevamente jugando el equipo de Vegas Golden Knights frente al portero, va a quedar arriba el post, a dos tiempos.
Bueno, ahí está Marche. Marcó el sexto, damas y caballeros. Y lo que había se acabó.
Excelente.
Lo decíamos.
El equipo de los Vegas Golden Knights. Faltó mandarlo más lejos. ¡Disparo! Y pegó en el poste de Marc Castro.
¡No!
¡Esa estuvo épica! Marc-Andre Fleury.
No.
¡Su majestad Fleury!
Closing in on pick number 10 in the 2020 NHL Draft. It belongs to the Winnipeg Jets. And we'll see what Kevin Cheveldayoff and company have cooked up with the 10th overall pick. This is a team, obviously, last year that the blue line decimated, including that whole right side, and now they've got the 10th pick in the draft this year.
I think they take Cole Perfetti. I don't think they can avoid him here. I think this is a guy who's fallen to them. Yeah. There's some other players that are interesting, but I have to think they go with Perfetti.
Well, our draft coverage here brought to you by the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. Great time at the Cosmopolitan always, but right now here is Gary Bettman.
2020 NHL Draft.
As this coming season marks our 10th year in the history of our franchise in Winnipeg, and tonight we make the 10th overall selection, I would like to invite Crystal Hawerchuk, wife of Dale Hawerchuk, the greatest number 10 in Winnipeg Jets history, to make our selection. Crystal?
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. But first, our family would like to thank the Winnipeg Jets and all of Dale's loyal fans and friends for their love and support through his very tough fight of stomach cancer. He was a great hockey player and a very special man. I want you to know that he loved Winnipeg and always felt a special connection to the people of Manitoba. We both consider Winnipeg our home. Your love and support meant so much to him. Thank you. Now I am thrilled to announce with the 10th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft, the Winnipeg Jets select from Saginaw Spirit, Cole Perfetti.
You had a little bit of that, broke up a little bit, but it is Cole Perfetti, so there you go. And real nice touch by the Winnipeg Jets. Of course, it was only a month and a half ago that we lost the great Dale Hawerchuk, and beautiful work and words by his wife, Crystal. So the Winnipeg Jets take Cole Perfetti with the 10th overall pick in the draft out of Saginaw in the Ontario Hockey League. And you thought maybe, Gary, it could be hard not to take him with that pick at number 10.
This is one of those scenarios, Gary, don't you think that, the Jets probably didn't have him. They probably had another name there, but it was, like you said, he's available, you take the best player.
I'll tell you what, Winnipeg has not missed on a first-round pick. They have done a great job. You go to Mark Scheifele, Jacob Trouba,
Josh Morrissey, Kyle
Connor, Patrick Laine,
Jack Roslovic.
They have hit some. Roslovic may be the one guy in that group that he's playing
and he's elevating.
But they have done a real good job with their first round picks, and Kevin Cheveldayoff is. This is so important for that organization to do well at the draft because they don't get free agents, they don't get guys in trades that have no moves. Anyone who has a 10-team trade list has Winnipeg on their list. It's the reality of the National Hockey League, and they need to hit a home run. And I'll tell you what, Shane is from Manitoba. I worked there for 18 years. We both know Dale Hawerchuk, or knew Dale Hawerchuk. That was really well done, and I'll tell you what, there are no dry eyes in the province of Manitoba right now after Crystal Hawerchuk made that announcement. Really nice, really well done.
We lost Dale Hawerchuk way too soon at the age of 57, a month and a half ago, his battle with cancer. We're going to check back in our City National Arena studios. Darren Millard on the case as we're now 10 picks into it. Darren, what's kind of caught your attention so far?
Well, balance, Dave. When you look at the top 10 selections, there's been 3 centermen taken, 3 left wingers, 2 right wingers, and a pair of defensemen. So it's really spread out around up front. Still looking for our first goaltender. Askarov maybe trending towards the Nashville Predators. That's where I saw him on a bunch of mock drafts. So could he be a top 15 selection at number 11 to Nashville? Jake Sanderson will try to become the first Montana-born player to make it in the National Hockey League. If he does that, that will leave 11 states to go. Arkansas, Hawaii, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Montana, as we mentioned, New Mexico, South Dakota, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Wyoming. So a little bit of hockey history for you. And Marco Rossi was an interesting pick that we just saw by Minnesota, but they are really trying to get a lot quicker. They traded Eric Stahl to the Buffalo Sabres for Marcus Johansson a couple of weeks ago. A big part of that, Dean Evison, the head coach, saying that they want to get quicker up front, and Rossi certainly does that. And his dad certainly knows about really sinking in and buying into playing hockey. He was a professional for 20 years in Europe, and then he also made the round trip, 4 hours, 6 days a week to get Marco to practice and game. So the Rossis are committed, and it's ended up being a draft choice to the Minnesota Wild. Back to you.
All right, Mallard, thanks very much. Yeah, that trip of going to Zurich, right, to skate and practice for Marco Rossi, and certainly paid off. And we made the point, Shane, about Minnesota. On the clock now, Nashville at number 11, but the last 5 years for the Wild, out in the first round, 4 of those 5, and missed the playoffs the other year. So, and the first round this year being the qualifying round.
And not an exciting team to watch.
No.
We've always said some of those games are just, and it's such a huge hockey state, Minnesota, and I think, trying Billy Guerin and Dean Evison, now head coach, trying to revamp that style of play. And great point by Darren Millard about, getting quicker, getting more speed, and really interesting stuff about the States. Now we know as hockey is growing, as it's expanding across everywhere. We were seeing, whether Germany and Austria, Switzerland, Sweden, but now even in the U.S., more and more states is Sanderson, the first Montana-born players. It's exciting stuff. I love seeing the game grow.
Yeah, great stuff. I was trying to tell you a moment ago, our draft coverage brought to you by the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. It's game time at the Cosmo, the place to watch all of your favorite live sporting events this fall. Curated lounge seating and mobile wagering, plus the best cocktails on the Strip. LED video walls to see every play up close. It's the most dynamic sports viewing in Las Vegas at the Cosmopolitan. So Dave Gosher, along with Shane Knighty and Gary Lawless, full draft coverage. Round number 1 underway here, of course, virtually being done this year. We've had some unique ways to kind of announce the picks. We've had we mentioned wonderful work by Crystal Howard-Chuck. We've had some fan montages. Had Alex Trebek announce Tim Stutzle with the 3rd overall pick going to the Senators as well. But next up on the clock, the Nashville Predators, and Darren Millard mentioned too, Shane, you wonder, where are they in all this? Pekka Rinne, who's been there forever.
Yeah, Saros is young.
Saros is a young prospect that certainly gave the Golden Knights all that they could handle in some games over the last few years. But next up, the Nashville Predators, they have the 11th pick. Here's Gary Bettman.
David Poile, the Nashville Predators President of Hockey Operations and General Manager, will make the 11th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. The Nashville Predators are very excited to have the 11th pick in this draft, and we're also very excited to have a special person to present our selection. It is Roman Josi, our captain, and this year's Norris Trophy winner as the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Roman, if you do the honors for us, please.
With the 11th pick in the 2020 NHL Draft, Nashville Predators are proud to select from St. Petersburg, Yaroslav Askarov.
And there you go. With the 11th pick, Yaroslav Askarov out of St. Petersburg in the KHL. And the Predators, they go down that road of taking a goaltender. That is high for a goaltender to be taken. As we mentioned earlier, Askarov has drawn comparisons to – he's one of the most highly touted goaltenders since Carey Price to come into the league 15 years ago. In a Predators team, too, Shane, that's like a lot of teams, the Golden Knights included, made a coaching change this past season. Peter Laviolette out, John Hines in. David Poile, their GM, who's been there since day one. They went forever with just Barry Trotz as their head coach, and then Peter Laviolette had a good run, but they made a change in midseason. But a Predators team that since that run to the Cup final in 2017, lost in the second round in 2018 to Winnipeg, losing Game 7 in Music City, then out in the first round last year to Dallas, and out in 2020 in the qualifying round to Arizona. So they go down the goaltending road with Yaroslav Askarov as the 11th overall pick.
Well, Pekka Rinne, he's hitting that age. There's maybe a couple years left. Saros can take over, but Nashville's a team that wants to win now. They just have a lot of underperforming, highly paid players. This is not for lack of talent up front. There's some things that need to shake up for the Nashville Predators, but this certainly solidifies them for the future at the goaltending position, where Pekka Rinne was there for so long. Saros is in, but Askarov will be the future for the Predators, and we all know how important that position is.
Yeah, Askarov is has a goaltender. He's built on his power, his legs. He can really get from post to post quickly. He can recover. He's got a ton of strength in his lower body. He doesn't get beat positionally very often, and he's not a flailer. He is athletic, but he's not a guy that he's in position all the time, and that's sort of where the comparisons to Carey Price come from, in that, I love this description of Carey Price: big, square, and soft. He's big, he fills the net, he's square to the puck, and soft in terms of the puck hits him and dies. He doesn't give up the big rebound. And Askarov has a lot of those qualities. He's pretty big at 6'3", only 176 pounds at this point, but he's young and will get a little larger than that. But I'm interested in this pick in the sense that he's in Russia now. He's not coming over anytime soon. They do have two pretty good. They've kind of gone to a bit of a rotation in Nashville. So this is a guy that's going to come over 2-3 years from now, and it's tough at the 11th pick to get a guy that's going to step in. It's not very often that you get that, so maybe that's why David Poile makes this decision.
Well, and you mentioned the way you described him is basically the way you're describing a lot of the new goalies. Positional play is so important now for goaltenders that you're seeing less movement. I think of Carter Hart. Carey Price was his idol. What Carter Hart has done for the Philadelphia Flyers this season, and that's how young goaltenders are playing now. You got to be both combination of athletic but not overextending. You really got to be a solid positional player because the elite skill level has upped for the forwards and the talent and the defensemen. So now you're kind of seeing the goalies adjust to that.
We mentioned Pekka Rinne. He's 37. He'll be 38.
Oh, he's young.
Yeah, he's young, but he'll be 38 on the 3rd of November. But the Predators draft Yaroslav Askarov, 11th overall in the 2020 NHL Draft. On the clock, minute and a half or so away, number 12, and the Florida Panthers, who are up next. In a Panthers team, Shane, that brought in Joel Quenneville, certainly a tremendous championship pedigree, second winningest coach in the history of the game, only behind Scotty Bowman, including 3 Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks. Panthers had an underwhelming season. Now they have a new GM in Bill Zito. I've kind of heard it described that at times it's been a little too easy in Florida just to kind of lose and to accept losing.
Trying to change the culture, right?
Yeah, they haven't won a playoff series in 24 years since they went to the final in 1996.
Well, it'd be interesting. There, some player. I know Gary mentioned Lundell was available. Anton Lundell. This is where you continue. Every team's gonna. Now I think it goes more for need as you get there because a lot of these players kind of even off on skill, and you start to find what is your biggest need, as the Predators did going with a goaltender.
They've had some high picks, of course. Jonathan Huberdeau, Alexander Barkov, Aaron Ekblad, all right on down the line, but it hasn't translated to any sort of consistent success. They went out and spent huge money on Sergei Bobrovsky to bring him in as their number 1 goalie. He had a rough first year.
Rough first season,
to say the least. In South Florida, once again, we'll head to the commissioner.
Bill Zito, the general manager of the Florida Panthers, will make the 12th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
On behalf of the Florida Panthers, I'd first like to thank our fans for their support during these difficult times. The Panthers would like to select from IFK Helsinki, centerman Anton Lundell.
Well, that's a name that Shane just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Anton Lundell, who turns 19 years old this Saturday. So what an early birthday present for him, the native of Espoo, Finland, and who's had a couple of good years playing in the Finnish Elite League. And there's some people that say he's the best two-way player in the draft. You see that a lot, Shane. I know you've covered world championships and overseas, be it Finnish players, Swedish players, their consciousness to playing at both ends of the ice.
Well, a lot of other reports talking about being a coach's dream, like a smart player, a leader, leadership qualities at a young age, and certainly, a lot of these interviews you do, this would be a player that a lot of the GMs, a lot of the scouts would talk to and learn those facts about him. But yeah, you're right. Finnish kids, they learn a lot about that two-way game. And we were just talking about Florida. They have Barkov, who I consider one of the best two-way players in the game. So a real good player for Lundell to go into an organization and learn from.
Our draft day coverage continuing from Rock Creek Cattle Company in Deer Lodge, Montana. First round underway. We're a dozen picks into it. As we go to break, of course, for the Golden Knights, they had the expansion draft, which was a terrific experience for them 3 years ago. But before that, Alex Tuck was a first-round pick of the Minnesota Wild in 2014. We'll hear Alex's draft day memories, and our coverage continues after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Hey, Golden Knights fans, this is Alex Tuck, number 89. Just want to talk to you about my draft experience. It was 2014, and I was drafted 18th overall by the Minnesota Wild. Sitting in my seat waiting for my name to be called was probably the most nerve-wracking and exciting moments of my life. I was there with my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, and a couple other family and friends that ended up making the trip down along with my agents. And we were sitting up there, and it was just to hear my name called was an unbelievable feeling. And I was able to hug my sister, then brother, mom, and dad, and walked up on stage and put the jersey on, put the hat on, and all I remembered is is looking out and seeing about 1,000 cameras flashing, and just try to look in the middle of all of them, and then walked off the stage and had to do a couple post-draft interviews and then do a lot of photography and videos. But it was something that I'll never forget, and I'll always appreciate going forward in my career.
If you've been
to his left and saved the goal.
Hey.
We're in beautiful Henderson, and we're at the site of what used to be the Pavilion and is now going to be the Henderson Event Center, which would be the new home of the Henderson Silver Knights. And of course, a lot of pride from the organization's perspective. This is a tremendous partnership between the Vegas Golden Knights, our American Hockey League team, the Silver Knights, and the city of Henderson. And this is the beginning phase of what we think will be a really special facility that'll open up in early spring of 2022. Well, for the first part of the process was actually the demolition. So we had the actual pavilion site that was here, the pavilion structure. So we had to take that structure down and then ultimately start the process of grading, excavation, and that's really what you're seeing going on right now. And then give it about 4 weeks, we'll actually start physical construction on the site. And like I said, it'll be about 18 months of actual construction, and it's going to be a great place for families. Not only here in Henderson, but throughout the valley to come to events. There'll be a lot of great events in addition to the American Hockey League. Fans are going to love it. It's great hockey, very high level, and it comes at a great family price. Home means Henderson.
Draft Special.
First round coverage continuing from Rock Creek Cattle Company, and it's sponsored by Zappos.com, an official sponsor of the Vegas Golden Knights. Dave Gosher, Shane Knighty, Gary Lawless with you. As we said, the one thing we haven't had yet is a trade, and right now the Carolina Hurricanes ready to go.
Don Waddell.
Carolina Hurricanes are proud to select from the Portland Winterhawks, Seth Jarvis.
So Seth Jarvis goes to Carolina. He's drawn a lot of comparisons over the last little while with Braden Point, who's just had a phenomenal season, couple of seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning. A lot of people thought, well, he certainly was in the running for the Conn Smythe as playoff MVP. But Seth Jarvis goes. Not real big, but you don't really have to be anymore. No. 5'10", 175 pounds. There was some that had him maybe going in the top 10. Just not too far past it does Seth Jarvis go as he is taken by the Carolina Hurricanes. So Don Waddell announcing their pick at number 13, and it is Seth Jarvis from Portland in the Western Hockey League.
Oh, and a Manitoban from Winnipeg. So he goes to Carolina. Another young Manitoban there, Morgan Geekie. So maybe a little familiarity. But Seth Jarvis, what a turnaround he had. He had a huge month in January, 29 points in 10 games. Portland, so skilled player, and Carolina is one of those teams. They love that speed, that skill up front. Seems like an organization fit for him.
He can do a little bit of everything. He can score. He is creative. He's a smart player, a very smart player.
He's from Manitoba,
he does have that real good basis. So it'll be interesting to see where Carolina slots him in terms of their window's open right now. So I would imagine he probably goes back to junior for a year and then becomes a pro. So
Well, Seth Jarvis playing in Portland in the WHL, and now a first-round pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. One of our correspondents, our Golden Knights correspondents, a proud alum of the Western Hockey League, is Cody Glass, who, of course, the Golden Knights took with one of their first-round picks in 2017. Cody, first off, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. What can you tell us about Seth Jarvis, who played for your old Winterhawks team?
Yeah, he's a great player. I had the pleasure of playing with him when he was 16 and I was actually 19. So played with him for quite a bit, and he's also from Winnipeg, Manitoba, so I got to train with him a bunch too, and he's a great player. For a guy who's under 6 foot, he competes hard, he's a fast skater, and he's got a really good shot. So plays a two-way game. That's how Portland likes him, and he's a really skilled player.
That's a scouting report, if there ever was one.
He's doing a better job than Gary and I here. He knows, he understands. He played with him. So,
hey, did you have you kept in touch with him, Cody? Because Shane was just saying the pause could not have come probably at a worse time for him, right? He had a fantastic second half of the year, and then everything stopped. Have you kind of kept in touch over the ensuing years with him?
Yeah, we keep in touch, especially him going through his draft year. He's always texting me, asking me questions on what teams ask, what the whole process is, and I was always there for him, which is nice. We have a very close relationship, and I texted him yesterday just seeing how he was. Obviously, coming up to the draft year, a little bit nervous going into it, so I just want to check in with him, see how he was doing, and he's a very confident kid too, which is really works in his favor, and he's a great kid. Like I say, he's from Winnipeg, and I've got to know him over the years, and he's been really good for the Portland Winterhawks. Not only that, but I'm really proud of him.
Well, Cody, while we got you here, how are you feeling? And I saw you last week, and you look to me like you're a little bit bigger than the last time we saw you on the ice. What's going on there?
I'm doing good. Just doing the usual hockey player summer, just training, rehabbing, doing all that fun stuff. But yeah, I've just been focusing on working on my strength. Obviously playing the NHL, it's a lot different, and something you just need to get used to. So for me, it's just getting those little things down, just being a little bit stronger in corners. And I know the playing style now, and it's all about feeling more comfortable in the game.
Is your barber on strike? What's going on?
Pardon?
Is your barber on strike?
I like it. He's got the flow.
Oh, yeah.
Gary's just jealous. If you notice, he's jealous.
No kidding.
Yeah, no, I've had quarantine hair for a while now, so it's been whatever. I'm not trying to impress anybody, so that's just me.
Well, Cody, thanks so much for this, and it's good to see your buddy there, Seth Jarvis, going 13th overall to Carolina. Of course, Cody was the first ever Golden Knights pick with the 6th overall draft pick in 2017. Real quick, Cody, does an experience like this, watching this, flood back memories in your head as to 3 years ago?
Yeah, I remember talking to Kelly McCrimmon about it, and he brought it up, and it kind of is a long time ago. 3 years, I mean, it's kind of getting me feeling old. I mean, I'm only 21, but
you're getting up there.
Kind of, it was a long time ago for me, and it's something I'll always look back on and cherish. And I remember just going through that whole draft experience with my family. It was awesome, and it was a very emotional time. So it's one thing getting drafted, but it's also another thing trying to play in the NHL. So that's something that my dad always told me.
Cody, thanks again very much. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Cody.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, Cody Glass joining us as our WHL correspondent, talking about his former teammate Seth Jarvis. Edmonton Oilers are on the clock next. Here we go.
The 14th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Edmonton Oilers President and General Manager Ken Holland.
The Edmonton Oilers are proud to select with the 14th pick Dylan Holloway, University of Wisconsin.
So Ken Holland making the selection for his Edmonton Oilers, and Dylan Holloway going to the Oil Drop. So an Edmonton team that, you think about their draft, Shane, and they've had so many real high picks, first overall picks. Connor McDavid, you've had Nail Yakupov go high, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, right on down the line. Darnell Nurse was a high pick for them as well. But with the number 14 pick, it is Dylan Holloway who goes out of the University of Wisconsin, native of Bragg Creek, Alberta.
Yeah, so
nobody from Bragg Creek's ever played in the NHL.
It's home province.
So hoping to change that as well.
The Edmonton Oilers, big body, plays a heavy game. One comparison, Boone Jenner of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Ken Holland going with Dylan Holloway, someone from right there in Alberta.
Played last year at Wisconsin as a freshman with the Badgers. Was roommates with Alex Turcotte, who was a high pick for the Kings in the draft last year. Little bit, in the bloodlines. Dylan Holloway's dad, Bruce, played a couple of NHL games with the Vancouver Canucks back in the mid-'80s. So the Oilers go the collegiate route, where you've got Dylan Holloway going with the 14th pick. And now up next, the Buds, the Toronto Maple Leafs, with the 15th pick. And Kyle Dubas, of course, this will be examined every way to Sunday, who the Leafs go with here, is usually in Toronto. That's par for the course. But the Maple Leafs sit pretty much dead middle of the first round with the 15th overall pick.
Back to Holloway, he's a big kid that moves well and has good hands in tight. I think this is a bit of a project pick. They won't expect him to arrive anytime soon, and they're going to let him mature. And we talk a lot about how Detroit would get guys that no one else was looking at and reach a little bit. Well, that was Ken Holland. Yes. Making those picks. That's the general manager that did that in Detroit. And now for Edmonton, it's been really obvious year after year after year who they were going to take. This is a little bit different. They finished a little higher in the regular season standings, and they're picking pretty late for Edmonton. Like Edmonton's picked first an awful lot in the last decade. So this is a little bit different, and we'll find out if Ken Holland still has that magic touch to be able to go a little bit off the board and get someone who turns into a real good player.
Well, Holloway, some lists are above 20, so he bumps up. So still some players out there for picks is the Toronto Maple Leafs with the next one, and I
believe that's the first college player taken in the draft as well so far this year.
That is,
yes. Holloway, right from will be going into his sophomore season at the University of Wisconsin. So.
For the Leafs, I'll be intrigued to see if they draft Ryan O'Rourke, who is a skilled defenseman who's played in Sault Ste. Marie, and Kyle Dubas was the general manager of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. There is a connection there. Did Sheldon Keefe coach in Sault Ste. Marie on his way up to I think he went from Pembroke to Sault Ste. Marie.
I can look it up, Lawman.
Yeah, no,
not sure.
It's just a connection that I think might be interesting to follow.
Toronto Maple Leafs up next. Let me take a peek here. Sheldon Keefe. What was the team?
Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds.
The Sioux. Let me see here. Sure did.
Yeah.
Yep. Took over in December of 2012. So
some connections there.
Yep. And we take a look at where the Maple Leafs are, guys, and they had this crazy.
They need some bite to their team.
Yeah, and this kid has bite. He's got offensive skill, and he has bite. Ryan O'Rourke, who I'm talking about, 6'1", 181.
He's down the list, though. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
So
Dan, what list? Your list, Shane.
Gary's got the insider.
Well,
the insider's got the inside info. The Leafs had that crazy series with Columbus, right, in the qualifying round where they had the huge comeback in Game 4, scoring 3 goals late, and then winning in overtime. 3 goals with a goalie pulled, and then winning in overtime, and then lost in Game 5 where they got shut out by the Blue Jackets. But the Leafs, and especially in Gary, a Peterborough native like yourself, and the microscope that team plays under. But first round and out every year the last 5 years, and that came after missing the playoffs 3 years before that. they have not been able to go on any sort of a run since they went to the conference final before the lockout that canceled the whole year back in 2004.
Well, Brendan Shanahan will not want to make a change, but if they don't have some success this year in terms of winning a round or two, he'll have to make a change. He'll have to fire Kyle Dubas. And that will be, they are aligned. It was interesting, though, to note that they did not sit together in the bubble when the Leafs were in the bubble in Toronto for a very short amount of time.
Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Kyle Dubas, as Gary mentioned, their GM, they are up next with the 15th overall pick.
Toronto, your 5 minutes has elapsed and the pick is not in. You can either now make the selection or take a timeout.
Begin. No problem. With the 15th overall selection in this year's 2020 NHL Draft, Toronto Maple Leafs are proud to select from UFA of the KHL, Rodion Amirov.
That was the voice of Mitch Marner announcing the pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Rodion Amirov is selected by the Toronto Maple Leafs.
By Mitch Marner.
By Mitch Marner. And well done, Mitch. So that's where the Leafs go out of the KHL and UFA in the KHL. He's drawn comparisons to Riley Smith as Rodion Amirov. So our draft coverage continuing from Rock Creek Cattle Company. Dave Gosher, Shane Knighty, and Gary Lawless with you. In the 2010 NHL Draft, Mark Stone went in round 6, 178th overall, the Ottawa Senators. And the now Golden Knight recaps what that day and experience was like for him. More draft coverage, round 1, continuing on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Hey, Knights fans, Mark Stone. My draft day memory is sitting on my dock at Lake of the Woods and getting a call from Bob Lowe's to tell me that I got drafted by the Ottawa Senators. It was one of the best days of my life, and I'll never forget it.
Hey,
Hey, you cleaning your car. Marc-Andre Fleury. Yeah, you. Do you feel your car window is boring? Do you want to make your exotic car more exotic? Would you like to proudly show off your family? Well, you're in luck. Do you think your friends would like them?
They're pretty cool. Right on, man.
What do you think of your new stickers? Get your Golden Knights family stickers at the Arsenal today. Fleury and exotic car not included.
Schmidt darting in, one-handed on goal save. Crawford, rebound, score! Not sure if it's going to count, I doubt it.
After video reviews, the puck was in the net before the net came out. The call on the ice is no goal due to goaltender interference.
Hi, I'm Darren Elliott. We're here at Lifeguard Arena in Henderson. Why are we here standing on a rink that's not built yet? Well, it's getting close. And today we actually had a ceremony that really was about recognizing the work of all the construction guys. Our general contractor, Gillette Construction, put it on in conjunction with Vegas Golden Knights. and it's called a topping off party. I wanted to have it when you hang the last piece of structural steel. That couldn't be done when that happened a couple months ago, but today we honored their work, had the topping off party, and that's why I'm here talking in an empty rink. Won't be empty for long.
And so glad that you can join us from Rock Creek Cattle Company on the radio side. You heard just the phenomenal guitar playing of, sadly, the late, great Eddie Van Halen that we lost today at the age of 65. So our coverage continuing here from Rock Creek, this phenomenal setting here in Deer Lodge, Montana. It's been unbelievable. Shane's been all over the property. He's thinking of getting a place here. I didn't know that was in the budget.
If you're going to chip in.
We know that's not happening.
No, that's not in my budget either. Nope. I could give you maybe a payment plan. Montreal Canadiens are up next. Marc Bergevin, of course, their general manager with the 16th overall pick. So back-to-back, you get the Leafs at 15, and then the Canadiens at number 16. So we will await who the Habs elect to go with. They made a trade earlier today, of course, sending Max Domi to Columbus for Josh Anderson.
Marc Bergevin, Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Montreal Canadiens, will make the 16th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
Thanks, Gary. Les Canadiens de Montréal sont fiers de sélecter. The Montreal Canadiens select from the Western Hockey League Prince Albert Raiders, Peyton Guhle.
So the Canadiens go with Peyton Guhle, defenseman out of Prince Albert. Who the heck who's played there that we know that's sitting at this table?
Got a good education
There you
from
go.
Carleton Comprehensive High School, too.
Also known as the Harvard of Saskatchewan. Yes. But bloodline certainly in the Guhle family. Of course, Peyton Guhle is the younger brother of Brendan, who is a defenseman for the Anaheim Ducks, former Buffalo Sabres draft pick as well. Peyton Guhle is one of those players for Prince Albert that's he's been counted on to play in all situations, plays half the game, plays 30 minutes a night, and now a member of the Montreal Canadiens. So a big moment, I would think, Shane, and you could speak to this. Any family, it would be such a source of pride to have one kid play in the NHL. And the Stahl family, the Sutter family, I mean, there's obviously a lot of others, but now the Guhles have one player in the NHL and another son drafted by.
Well, and Peyton, certainly, well-rounded, offensive, defensive. Says he has an edge to his game. Good pick here for the Montreal Canadiens. And we talked defenseman. This is a project. He's going to continue to get better unless he forces the hand. Montreal Canadiens have been pretty deep now on defense. They added Joel Edmondson also to their team. They got Shea Weber, who's kind of revitalized back to the way he should. Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petry's been phenomenal for them. So
the interesting pick about this player is he's like Zach Bogosian in the sense that he can skate, he's big, he's physical, he's got a shot. His hockey sense is the one question mark with him. So we just saw Zach Bogosian finally put it all together and win a Stanley Cup. He got in the right role with the right team, and maybe the Canadiens, as deep as they are. Go ahead.
But Zach Bogosian jumped right to the NHL.
Yes,
sometimes that can be harmful.
Yeah.
And now this is,
this
I
is what I was.
You gotta groom this player. He's not ready yet mentally as a defenseman. There's so much to learn in the game, and give him time to make sure he understands, get that hockey IQ where he needs to be.
That's what my point was being. They're so deep right now already. Yeah. They're not in a rush. This is a guy they can take some time with. Now, so we talked about Peyton Krebs earlier and how he fell because of an injury. Well, there's another player right now that is just like him, and that is Hendrix Lapierre. This is a super skilled player who could easily be in the top 10 if not for injured. So it'll be interesting now to see which team says this. I don't care that he's hurt. This player is so talented. We have to grab him.
And that next team up is the Chicago Blackhawks with the 17th pick. We're going to be joined, though, live on the line before we get to the Hawks pick. Brought to you by Planet Fitness, where you can join Planet Fitness right now for only $10 a month. No commitment. Planet Fitness is squeaky clean with plenty of room for social distancing, and right now it's free to join. Offer ends on the 8th of October, 2020. Visit your local club or go to planetfitness.com for details. Chris Johnston joins us from Sportsnet in Canada. CJ, thanks for taking the time. Dave Gosher, Shane Knighty, Gary Lawless with you from our draft coverage here at Rock Creek Cattle Company in Montana. What do you make of what you've seen so far here? I mean, we're at the halfway point of round number one. What's piqued your interest so far?
Well, first of all, I'd love to be in Montana with you guys.
Come on out.
Not quite as exciting here on my couch in Toronto right now, but I would say, a little bit surprising, I guess, that we've seen a lack of movement in terms of trades and things. I mean, obviously, this is a night for the kids, and the prospects have had to wait an extra amount of time for this. But, we also know there's been a fair bit of conversations being had around the league at this point in time. And I thought we might have saw a little bit more. And I kind of wonder if, having it in a virtual setting has made it a little bit more difficult, versus when we're all in the same place, and some of those conversations can happen organically, because to get this deep into the draft and not even see a team move up a few spots or see a player traded, that's not something I would have guessed at the start of the day.
Chris, there was a trade today. The Montreal Canadiens and Columbus Blue Jackets swapping Josh Anderson and Max Domi. Did that deal surprise you? And give us a little background on why you thought that deal went down.
Well, to me, it's sort of trading two problems, and it's not to label the players themselves as problems, but their situations for each team are becoming problematic. And, in Max Domi, when we saw the return to play, he was basically a fourth-line center for the Canadiens. They'd had a couple young players come on, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Nick Suzuki, and bump him down the lineup, and he wants to play center, and they don't see room for him. On top of that, he needs a new contract, and the talks there didn't go so well. Josh Anderson had a very difficult year in Columbus, was injured with a shoulder injury, wasn't able to return at all during the playoffs. But, he's another guy. He had 27 goals 2 years ago and is looking to cash in. And I just don't think he and Columbus saw his value at the same spot. So, what you do then is you've got two good players, but kind of a bit of a loggerhead, and you flip them for each other. And certainly for Max, I think this will be a good chance for him to be the number two center in Columbus. It fulfills his need, and I think Montreal wants to get a bit more sandpaper and be tough to play against. So it was one of those ones that almost made too much sense that I wasn't surprised, but of course you never know a trade's going to happen until they finally pull it off.
Chris, we're going to ask you to stand by a moment. The Chicago Blackhawks are ready to draft.
Will be making the 17th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
Thank you, Gary. Here at the Blackhawks, we believe that what we do off the ice is just as important as what we do on it. We have a special guest joining us today to make our first choice from the Fifth Third Arena here on Chicago's West Side. Please welcome one of the inaugural One West Side grant recipients, Jamile Cannon. Jamile is the founder and executive director of The Block, which is a nonprofit boxing program that uses the love of boxing to provide mentorship and academic support to the youth of Chicago.
With the 17th pick in the 2020 NHL Draft, from Eisbären Berlin, the Chicago Blackhawks select Lukas Reichel.
Lukas Reichel goes to the Chicago Blackhawks, and of course we last saw the Chicago Blackhawks going against the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup playoffs, where the Golden Knights were able to win that series in 5 games. So there you go, and talk about hockey bloodlines. Of course, his uncle Robert Reichel, long-time NHL career, 830 career games in the NHL. We had on the phone lines from Sportsnet in Canada, Chris Johnston joining us. Chris, thanks for hanging in there with us. What's as you've seen this draft, you mentioned we haven't had a trade just yet. What's been your sense as you've talked to people around the league of, I don't know if there's ever a substitute for seeing a player in person, but did you get a sense that most organizations felt they were able to get as much as they could in terms of seeing players in person before the pause came in the middle of March?
I think that they did because it was fair to everyone. It's not as though one or two teams couldn't go to a big tournament and get those live viewings. I mean, obviously everyone was in the same position, but it doesn't change the fact that this is a completely different way of going through this process for teams and their amateur scouting departments, and not even having a draft combine, where the players are tested and you get sort of uniform results on a variety of different exercises to compare them with. I think on top of that, what's interesting here is most of these players, and I know some in Europe have resumed playing now, but a lot of them haven't played since March, and they've had a long period of time, given how young a men they are, to work on their bodies and get in greater physical shape. I've heard from a number of players that put on 15 or 20 pounds of good muscle during this time because they weren't going through a hockey season suddenly and were able to do some different things. So I think that there were a lot of variables in this draft that we'll probably have to look back on in years down the road to see who missed what or who didn't prepare well. But I do think the teams felt it was pretty fair because they all had a chance to view the same number of games, and certainly everyone had a lot of chance to cut down and look at video here the last few months.
The Tampa Bay Lightning just won the Stanley Cup, getting 2 minutes and 47 seconds of play from Steven Stamkos in the playoffs. Does that put them in a position? Do they look at it and say, we won without him? We need to go. We have cap issues. We need to shed that so we can keep some of the guys that helped us win.
For sure. That's a consideration of theirs, Gary. And I don't think that the way they've approached this, I mean, look, they have a cap issue on their hands. They're going to have to move one or two established players that just helped them win that cup, in the next week or so, in order to sign the restricted free agents and be under the cap ceiling. And so I think that they're willing to consider a number of guys, and the fact that Steven Stamkos isn't on their list of untouchables makes it notable. But, it's important, too, to understand that I don't know for sure that means he'll be traded. I mean, he's got a no-movement clause. He has a lot of say, and however this goes down, whatever teams would be involved, I would think it would be a very small number of teams from his end that he'd even consider this type of move for.
Where would he go, Chris?
A lot of things have to drop into place to make that happen.
Where would he be willing to go?
Well, I think he's got to go somewhere he feels he can win, and he's got to go somewhere where he likes the living situation. Let's revisit his history. In 2016, he was the number one free agent in the free agency class. He basically had 10-hour window or so where he was actually a free agent and he could have signed anywhere in the league. And he ended up going back to Tampa on a deal at the time that was below what the market would have paid him. And so, I think the fact that he took, look, he's getting paid very well, but he's a preeminent player in the league. I think that things like living situation, tax situation, all that stuff will matter to him because this was a contract he signed specifically to be a Tampa Bay Lightning and to try and finish his career there. So we're talking a few small places that I think he considered, and even then, I'm not 100% certain it's going to happen. But the fact his name's out there, makes some headlines because this is a crazy year, and wouldn't it be something if they moved on from their captain after they just won the Cup?
Hey, Chris, one more for you before we let you go. The New Jersey Devils are up next with the number 18 pick. There's a lot of big names on the free agent market, but at the top of the list, or certainly right near it, is Alex Pietrangelo. Do you have any sense of where that stands and whether he gets to free agency Friday or resigns or St. Louis? How do you see it?
Well, I think he's going to get there because, from where I sit, it's been eerily quiet here the last week or so when it comes to his situation. And look, we still got a few days. There's a chance, I suppose, that St. Louis comes up with an offer that they have not yet made in the last 13 or 15 months when they've had ample time to make that kind of offer that would entice him to stay. Because, I do think, Alex isn't a player that was looking to hit free agency. It's just he and the Blues didn't have a fit there in terms of what the contract would look like and the kind of number he should be paid. And so, my gut tells me that you're going to see him go into free agency on Friday and at least see what the market is. I mean, even if he does that, doesn't preclude him from going back to the Blues and seeing if there's a deal to be done there. So, for me, he'll be the number one free agent out there. There's only so many teams, including the one you guys work for, that I think makes sense for him, in terms of places he wants to play. And this is such a strange year with COVID, with the flat cap. I mean, we don't know. In a normal year, I could tell you what he's going to get paid. I don't know what it's going to look like in this scenario, but I do think he hits the open market, and I would expect him to move on from the Blues.
Chris, thanks so much for the visit. We appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Chris Johnston joining us from Sportsnet in Canada. The New Jersey Devils just making the number 18 pick.
Dawson Mercer.
And Dawson Mercer it is. So Tom Fitzgerald, their general manager.
18th selection
Here
in
we go.
the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by New Jersey Devils general manager Tom Fitzgerald.
Thank you. The New Jersey Devils are proud to select from Chicoutimi center Dawson Mercer.
Well, Dawson Mercer is a mature player. He's a winger who can score. He's big at 6 feet, 180 pounds. He plays hard and smart at both ends of the ice. They've got some skill. This is a guy, he'll be like not as long as Travis Zajac, but that type of a forward, a real two-way guy that they need to add.
So the New Jersey Devils 2 picks down in the first round for them. They have 2 picks away. They go again at number 20. Yeah. But for the Devils, they went earlier in the draft. Alexander Holtz with the 7th pick overall, and now at number 18, Dawson Mercer goes to New Jersey as well. We'll step aside. Our draft coverage continues from Rock Creek. Next up will be the Calgary Flames. We'll have that for you at number 19 when we come back on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Board at home.
Well, I think it's going to be gold. Yeah, and I expect just the best. That's what I expect.
I've heard rumors about gold. That's my prediction. It's going to be golden jersey.
Oh, we see a letter.
Ooh, cool box, eh?
That's nice.
It is gold, eh?
That is sick. I expected that.
Wow, I'm surprised how like gold it is, you know?
This one is so sick. Always advance, never retreat. Bill Foley.
I was hesitant how they can make this gold, but they did a good job.
They did a great job.
This is also the name of the new captain. Here we go, Captain Carlson.
Is that for me?
Yeah. By the way, I'm not the captain. All right. Now we got a pair of sick kicks.
Ooh.
That's gold.
Those are sick shoes, though.
So I'm gonna just put these on, I guess.
Ooh.
I'm still waiting for my gold hat.
There we go. I hope it fits.
There we go. That's my gold hat.
This is Jonathan Marceau, and this is So Vegas.
I'm William Karlsson, and this is So Vegas. Maybe we can get some golden gloves. That's gold right there. This might as well be real gold. I'm wearing all gold. The golden Sparta. I feel golden.
The Henderson Silver Knights have a name and logo. Be the first to night up with the official HSK gear. Available now at the Arsenal and VegasTeamStore.com. Get your inaugural men's and women's Henderson Silver Knights t-shirts and hats and be the first ones to represent the Valley's newest team. Don't miss out. Go Knights, go. And our coverage continuing from Rock Creek Cattle Company in Deer Lodge, Montana. It is brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. New Amsterdam Vodka believes that in life you got to find your wins when you can, and when you can celebrate them, you've earned it. Dave Gosher along with Shane Knighty and Gary Lawless.
I think we got a trade here. I think Calgary is trading down to the New York Rangers for the 22 and the 72 pick. So Calgary, the Rangers must have a player that they want right now, and they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait around, and they've got some picks. They've already scored big in the first.
They had a good pick at the beginning.
Yeah, and now they want to move up. So very aggressive from Jeff Gordon. Interesting stuff.
Haven't had a trade yet. Let's see if it happens.
I'd like to announce a trade. The Calgary Flames are trading pick number 19 in this year's draft, the 2020 draft, to the New York Rangers for selections number 22 and 72 in this year's draft, the 2020 draft. So it's Calgary trades 19 in this year's draft to the Rangers for selections 22 and 72 in the 2020 draft. As a result, New York Rangers, you're now on the clock.
Now, the only suspense here is, do they use the pick, or did they get it for somebody else, and do they flip it again right away? So this is
Gary's just bouncing in his chair right now.
I haven't seen Gary this excited in a long time.
Well, see, he loves trades because he's never been in one. It's not much fun. Let me tell you from the other side of it.
That's the funniest thing you've ever said.
Yeah.
And it's not that some haven't been wanting to trade him. But,
No,
but it hasn't happened
I've been
yet.
trying for years.
Yeah, I know, and we haven't had any takers. But no, so here we go. So the Rangers, who had the first overall pick, obviously with Alexis Lafrenière, and now they've traded up a couple of spots to get, 3 spots, I guess, with the Calgary Flames to get the number 19 pick.
And the Rangers actually their 22nd pick they got from Carolina previously. So, yeah, a little movement here, and this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for a little bit of excitement, even just to move picks. It'd be interesting who the Rangers are looking at. Still some real good players out there.
And you know we've talked about, Shane, the kind of the offshoot of where some of these draft picks have landed. New Jersey's last pick, the Dawson Mercer pick, was from Arizona. They got that first round pick in the Taylor Hall trade.
Yes.
And then the Devils are up next at 20. So Jersey has 18 and 20. They got that pick via the Blake Coleman trade.
Vancouver.
From Vancouver. And,
some way around.
JT Miller went from
Tampa.
So, there's you follow the chain of all this. But anyway.
That's Gary's job.
You wonder if the Rangers want Hendrix Lapierre and are worried that he's dropped. They look at that. They go, we like this player. He is a top 10 skill guy, except for the concussion history. If we move up, we can grab him right now, and maybe he's a real good pairing. Maybe you add him and Lafrenière in 1 year to your lineup. He's a centerman.
There's some worries about his medical history.
Yeah, for sure. He's had real serious concussion issue
in a short period
of time. But has returned to play, and already in this young season has already in 2 games has 2 goals and 2 assists. He can produce.
Kind of what they thought, and you could speak to this, Shane. It's always tricky sometimes with concussions. They thought he had 3 and 10 months, and it turned into more of a spinal injury, which accounted for his last couple of situations.
A CCTI, a neck injury. That's
Antoine Vermette, high pick in Ottawa, missed a bunch of time when I was there, and they ended up same thing. They thought it was concussion. Eventually found out it was more to do with his neck, and was able to recover and play a long time.
Well, we'll see what the Rangers do with this pick. As we said, they traded up 3 spots, swapping picks with the Calgary Flames. And we'll see what the Rangers. It's already been a big night for the Rangers franchise with Alexis Lafrenière as the first overall pick, and now they have another one at number 19.
Well, this is when you're not at the draft. This is fascinating, because usually when you're at the draft, you can get a sense, you hear the buzz. Hey, the Devils want Hendrix.
Yeah.
And so that kind of pushes you in that direction. Well, now they're not all in the same room. So Jeff Gordon just must have wanted him.
Well, Jeff Gordon up next. Here's Gary Bettman.
Here's General Manager Jeff Gordon with the second pick in the first round for the Rangers. Will be selecting the 19th pick.
With the 19th pick from the Brandon Wheat Kings, the New York Rangers select Braden Schneider.
So they go to the Western Hockey League and the Brandon Wheat Kings, and Braden Schneider going to the New York Rangers. We had a look on our video feed of kind of the brain trust of the Rangers. John Davidson, of course, their team president now. Jeff Gordon, Chris Drury, all in the room to make the announcement of Braden Schneider going to the New York Rangers, native of Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, who played for the Brandon Wheat Kings, a team that until not long ago, Kelly McCrimmon was a proud owner of. That's since changed, but from the Wheat Kings to the New York Rangers, draft-wise anyways, for Braden Schneider.
Yeah, I think they were cutting off the Calgary Flames. I think the Flames would have my thinking was the Flames would have been interested in Schneider. So really interesting. I thought it might have been, obviously, we talked about Hendricks and Hendricks Lapierre and the possibility of grabbing him there, but it turns out it's Braden Schneider. Shane, this is he's reliable, but he loves to bang.
Yeah,
this
guy
loves to hit.
Well, and this is something the Rangers, they got the skill up front we've talked about. Now an opportunity for them to add to their defensive group, a young prospect, some size. They just got rid of a longtime Mark Stahl, who was in that organization, a great career with the New York Rangers, and drafting that similar style defenseman here.
Mom, Carmela, Braden Schneider's mother, a police officer, member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP in Canada. So Braden Schneider going to the New York Rangers. Going to go back to our City National Arena studios. Darren Millard, we're going to check back in with Mallard as we're now 19 picks into the draft. The New Jersey Devils back up at number 20. But Mallard, what's cooking back in Vegas?
I'm wondering, just from Shane's point of view, is your heart beating with pride right now with Caden Guhle and Braden Schneider, Prince Albert roots coming together?
Oh, yeah. It's always good to have some Prince Albert roots. Dave always loves to chat about my days there and the experiences. But no, it's good to see these young defensemen, certainly skilled. You said Schneider from there and Guhle playing there. It's good for the Raiders organization, certainly.
I'm surprised that was our first trade because we had 6 teams going into this first round tonight without a first-round pick. I thought there might be some jostling to get into that mix. Nashville, when I last chatted with you, we were on urge of the 11th overall pick, and Yaroslav Askarov picked up the goaltender. He's a right-handed catching Andrei Vasilevsky. What's interesting there is Andrei Vasilevsky, when he grew up, was a right-handed catching goaltender. But where he grew up in Russia, they didn't have the southpaw gloves, so he taught himself how to catch left-handed. Ended up being a first-round pick in the National Hockey League and a Stanley Cup champion. And he was, up until recently, the highest-drafted Russian goaltender ever until tonight with Askarov, who is off to a great start himself in the KHL. 3-0. He was the man of the week in the KHL with a .74 goals against average. Their season's already underway. And we've seen some great introductions to draft picks so far tonight through these first 19 selections. Crystal Howard-Chuck, and we had Alex Trebek. I'm wondering, did the Carolina Hurricanes not miss out on an opportunity to have David Ayers, the Zamboni driver, who was the emergency backup, not step in and make that selection for them when they picked up Seth Jarvis earlier tonight? And one more thing, just from a play-by-play point of view, Gauche, and I wonder if you agree with this. The reason why the New York Rangers did not select Hendricks Lapierre just now is it would just be unfair to Sam Rosen to have Lafrenière and Lapierre in the same draft.
I like that, Mallard. Yeah, why? Yeah, look, it's hard enough as it is. I mean, but believe me, any dummy can do it. Take a look at myself. But yeah, no question. Mallard, thanks for that. I didn't know that about Vasilevsky.
No,
that doesn't sound
Mallard
easy.
knows all that stuff.
Mallard knows everything about goalies, and you see
he's a
trying
goaltending
to get a goalie to make a pick for like that. Just reeked of the Union card right there, Mallard. I saw right through you.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was cute.
Well, it's just like how can you catch with the other hand?
Well, that's what I
you
mean.
Teach yourself, and then you become a professional athlete and a Stanley Cup champion. So. If it was that easy, we'd all do it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. All right, Mallard, thanks. We'll check back in at some point. Just sit right there. Sit and just wait. That'd be great. Okay, thanks, man. Yeah, it's like if you
maybe I should have tried
left.
do that.
It's like if you play golf right-handed, or if you were asking me to hit a golf ball left-handed, I couldn't hit it 3 feet.
Yeah, you
I have a hard enough time
I
right-handed.
thought you're an athlete.
I'm an athlete, but within reason. That's great stuff. Next up, New Jersey Devils, about a minute away with the 20th pick. The Devils have been busy already. Alexander Holtz at number 7. They took Dawson Mercer at 18, and now they have another pick, so 2 out of 3 picks going to the Devils. And Tom Fitzgerald, as we said, their new general manager, when the new season gets underway, they'll have a new head coach and Lindy Ruff as well. So that's where we stand. As we said, the Golden Knights 29th. So we're closing in on it, where the Golden Knights will have their first-round pick. And then it'll be quiet for the VGK to start tomorrow. No second-rounders for Vegas. Then a couple of third-round picks. The Golden Knights, their picks so far, you lose some of these in trades. The Golden Knights did that. Their second-round pick went to L.A. For Alec Martinez. Here we go with the New Jersey Devils at number 20.
The 20th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by New Jersey Devils General Manager Tom Fitzgerald.
The New Jersey Devils are proud to select from UFA defenseman Shakir Mukhamadullin.
Easy for Tom Fitzgerald to say. Well done, Tom.
Shakir Mukhamadullin. It's an easy one to say.
Dave, you're up.
Shakir Mukhamadullin.
Wow. What do you got on him, Lawman?
Well, he can really shoot. He's big, and he's got some skating ability. 6'3", 180 pounds. Shane spent 6 months in UFA one time, or at least it felt that way. And UFA is like, it's right beside Mars. It is like
it's out there.
A long flight.
The third star from the sun. Really far away.
Shakir Mukhamadullin going to the Devils with number 20. So there you go. The Devils, they're 3 first
I don't
round.
even know how to spell that one.
I don't either. That's
so
a
this
lot.
is a little bit off the line.
Yeah.
A little bit, but he can really, really shoot the puck and plays fast all the time. He just plays at one speed and is just an interesting player. Big rocket.
So the Devils use all 3 of their first-round picks.
Yeah,
at number.
interesting.
Yeah, did not move any of them. So at 7, 18, and 20. The only other team that has 3 picks in the first round, the Ottawa Senators, and they used 2 in the top 5. They went 3rd with Tim Stutzle. They went 5th with Jake Sanderson. They're at 28, right before the Golden Knights have their pick coming up at number 29. Next up, the Columbus Blue Jackets with pick number 21.
I tell you what, by using all 3 picks, it tells me that ownership in New Jersey has bought in to Tom Fitzgerald's plan and said, yes, we'd like playoff dates, but we understand that you're just taking over. He's given them a plan of draft and develop, and he's going to use these assets that he's collected to try and restock the team in that manner.
And Lindy Ruff likes to play a high-paced, fast, offensive game. He did it. He had the great teams in Buffalo there in the mid-2000s that really kind of took off, in Dallas. So getting this young, youthful talent, this skill up front, maybe the direction is New Jersey wants to play that style of game.
And you mentioned, Shane, a little bit off the board. And look, we've got some different lists and prospects and rankings of players, but the one I'm looking at had Shakir Mukhamadullin ranked 53rd.
That's why I couldn't find him.
So, I just
Gary's is different.
I just went through some light reading to try to find him.
He's at 25 on the list that I have, but Lucas Reichel, who went to Chicago, is 60th on that list. So
and he's higher in this one.
Yeah, and higher in the pack.
And that's really the truly intriguing thing about all this is we don't know who's going to turn out to be the best player, right?
Yeah.
You obviously know Lafrenière is going to be special. There's going to be a few of those early on, but you go beyond that. It could be somebody that goes 3rd, 4th round that comes in and makes a difference.
Well, you look at Shakir Mukhamadullin, big kid, 6'4", 178 pounds. He's 19 and just after the new year, but some comparisons to Jay Bouwmeester, who had a fantastic career, of course, I think a career that hasn't officially announced it yet, but obviously had that horrendous incident collapsing on the bench with the St. Louis Blues, but Stanley Cup champion in 2019, and Bouwmeester had a fantastic NHL career. But next up, the Blue Jackets at 21. You know, we had Chris Johnston on earlier, Gary, talking about the trade they made earlier today, right, where you kind of – they were having trouble signing Josh Anderson, the Canadiens, and it wasn't working out with Domi, and they swapped them today.
You guys know Claude Julien very well, and you know that when he makes a decision on a player, it's usually a decision.
Yes.
And he decided that he didn't like something about Max Domi's game and had turned him into a fourth-line center. You knew that Max Domi was not going to be happy with that.
No, and they elevate. You know, he had a couple of young players elevate their games. You know, Kakimiemi and Domi. So.
Before we get to the Columbus pick, guys, Mallard, you had a question. What do you got from our Vegas studios?
Well, I just wanted to chime in with you, Dave, being Boston Bruins related. Does this pick not kind of remind you of a few years ago when the Bruins had the 13th, 14th, and 15th, and they kind of went off the board because they had the 3 first-round picks in a row?
Yeah, a little bit, right? They're Devils with 18 and 20, so it's not quite 3 in a row, but yeah.
Yeah, well, we talked about
that.
that.
We talked about it today.
That's the case. These next 3 picks are going to be great.
Yeah, because the only guy they got out of it was Jake DeBrusk. The other 2 guys have never played. And then the 3 after, Dave, this is your stat, so you take it.
Barzell, Connor, Shabbat.
Yeah.
Not good.
Right.
Yeah, they passed.
So you start reaching a little bit because you've got 3 first-round picks, and it really reminds me of that when you guys were talking, and we saw this pitch that I had to go through the cards too.
This is why you plan your work and work your plan. You don't vary. You go by your list.
You're right.
The 21st selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Columbus Blue Jackets General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen.
The Columbus Blue Jackets are proud to select from Avangard Omsk of the Continental Hockey League, Yegor Chinakov.
All right.
All right. Whose list is he on?
All right. Let me go through my light reading materials.
Oh, that and that is off the board. There's a big one.
All right. We're going to find out a little bit more about Yegor Chinakov.
They do a good job. There,
They've done that. Yeah.
They sure do.
Yeah.
All right, boys, we'll step aside real quick. Of course, it was last year in the first round the Golden Knights took Peyton Krebs, 17th overall, as we kind of chime into his memories of what that day was like for him. Draft coverage continues from round 1 on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
This is Peyton Krebs from the Vegas Golden Knights. My draft memory was hugging my family and just thanking them for everything they've done, and then walking up on stage and hearing Gary Bettman say welcome to the NHL was a special moment, and then putting on the Vegas uniform and the next day heading to Vegas was a whirlwind, but an amazing experience and something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life.
It's been a vision from our owner, Bill Foley, since day one to have a 3rd jersey that's truly reflective of the entertainment and sports capital of the world, Las Vegas. And so we knew we had to do a gold jersey, and we knew we had to get it right. It's been about a 2-year process working with the NHL, Adidas, and really through multiple rounds of testing, we really think we have the first metallic gold jersey in sports. It was all about how do we do something different that the league has never seen before, and we really tried to push Adidas out of their comfort zone to do something that they've never done before, which is a truly metallic ultra-knit fashion, and the jersey is reflective of that. It's not just a hockey jersey, it's a fashion statement for sure. The gold jersey is really reflective of Las Vegas. It's the perfect thing to wear at a game at T-Mobile Arena. It shines. It actually has sparkles when there's movement. Or if you go out in the town on the Las Vegas trip, it's the perfect thing to wear for a night out as well. It really is reflective of Las Vegas and the Vegas Golden Knights. We're actually offering an exclusive 77 treasure chest that include the gold jersey. It includes customization, a special gold coin, and then we're also offering special metallic gold Adidas Boost shoes with that for $777. As you can see, the gold is truly metallic gold. And we've got our mantra from our owner, Bill Foley, that says, always advance, never retreat on every single collar. And it's got the alternate metallic construction. It's got the filigree in the white sleeves and the steel gray numbers and letters. The VGK Gold jersey is available now at the Arsenal at City National Arena, the Armory at T-Mobile Arena, or online at VegasTeamStore.com. It's so Vegas.
Closing in on the Golden Knights pick at number 29, still a few picks away. Next up on the clock, the Calgary Flames. They've got under a minute to go on the clock. Our draft coverage brought to you by Gold Bar, American winning whiskey with an iconic design. Gold Bar whiskey is the official celebration cocktail of the Vegas Golden Knights. Learn more at goldbarwhiskey.com. Just to go back quickly, the Columbus Blue Jackets, Igor Chinnikov. They go with him at the 21st pick overall. Depending on what list you looked at, he was passed over after, for the draft last year. He was draft eligible last year, did not get taken. The list I'm looking at had him at 128th. Blue Jackets took him at 21. You assume they know what they're doing.
Well,
to say the
still,
least.
if you know what you're doing, you might have been able to sneak him in at 50.
Yeah.
If
you're taking him in the first round,
it's odd to me. They must be really high.
When's their next pick? Do they have a second?
Let's get to that in a moment, Gary. We'll go to Calgary now at 22. We hope.
Columbus doesn't have a second.
So there you go. So they didn't want to wait.
Yeah,
they obviously wanted to get Chinnikov. Weren't willing to risk he'd
and
slide
we
through.
heard Sam Cosentino talk about the fact that, you could trade down because from 20 to 50, in his view, there's a lot of similar players.
Yeah, for sure. So we're waiting. The Calgary Flames right now, they originally had the 19th pick. They flipped it with the Rangers to get to number 22.
They're taking a timeout here? The
I
clock's
don't know.
up. I should be running the show there.
Well, I think there are some technical difficulties this is a big undertaking for the NHL, having all 31 teams doing this remotely. It's not going to be seamless. And when you think about it, they had so little time to get ready for this. They had poured all their resources and their attention into awarding the Stanley Cup through the bubbles. This might have slipped through the cracks a little bit in terms of some of the technical stuff.
So the Golden Knights are waiting at number 29, and we're waiting for the Calgary Flames right now. We said the Golden Knights do not have a second-round pick. That went to the LA Kings in the Alec Martinez trade. They've got 2/3, their own and New Jersey's. They got the Jersey third-round pick when Nikita Gusev was traded to the Devils. No fourth-round pick for the Golden Knights either. That went to Toronto, along with a contract of David Clarkson when the Golden Knights brought goaltender Garrett Sparks over. They have a fifth. I beg your pardon, they did not have a fifth. That went as part of the Robin Leonard trade, but they do have a sixth and a seventh.
We've got another trade here. Calgary's moving again.
Yeah. Okay.
So
they don't want to pick.
No, they are.
Here we go.
We have a trade to announce. The Calgary Flames are trading the 22nd selection in the 2020 draft to the Washington Capitals for selections number 24 and 80 in this year's draft, the 2020 draft. So Calgary trades 22 to Washington for 24 and 80, all in this year's draft. Washington, you're on the clock.
Well, the Flames went from 19 to 22 and now to 24. So the Capitals, it'll be their pick now, and we'll see what
So basically, they've fallen down, but they picked up the 72nd and 80th pick, and then just bumped back in the first round.
So they're going to have like 4 picks, I believe, in the third round. That's interesting. Does Brad Treliving think that
the deepest third round in history?
Yeah, that it's that deep, or is he getting ready to do something else? Is he collecting assets to be able to make a swap in another direction? This is Brad Treliving, you remember, was he was instrumental in making the deal with the Bruins that gave the Bruins all those picks.
Yep.
He is his father was a police officer who then turned that into billions. He started a franchise in Canada. It's called Boston Pizza.
I've heard of that.
And they are everywhere. And now he's on a TV show called Dragon's Den, which is like Shark Tank. It's a Canadian version of Shark Tank. And it was first. It came before Shark Tank. And Brad apparently not afraid to get the bat off the shoulder and do some wheeling.
Well, interesting moves, as you said. It gives them a couple more picks late if they feel there's a deep enough talent pool here that there's not one player in particular they're looking for at this point. Why not? They move down a little bit, few picks, and then pick up a couple extra ones to really solidify, the third round. So assets, right? I guess that's the best way. Whether you use them or not, they're your assets. If you're going to utilize those picks, or if you're going to utilize them to make some sort of trade.
Well, I would think, too, guys, if you're the Flames here and you've traded down now twice, there's obviously nobody that they're that intrigued by.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be making these moves. So the players they feel potentially could be available, they're willing to, your word, Shane, gain some other assets, which are draft picks. And, it's worth noting. Look, first round, a lot of buzz around it for obvious reasons, and especially when you've got some of these high-end players like Lafrenière and Byfield and Stutzle that, by all accounts are going to be able to, to make huge impacts in the NHL. But you also get some significant players later on in the draft. And, just to kind of point out a couple, Andre Palat goes 7th round to Tampa Bay. Joe Pavelski goes 7th round to San Jose. Mark Stone goes 6th round to Ottawa. I can go right down the list. Henrik Lundqvist went in the 7th round of the New York Rangers way back when. So as much as we're focused on the first round, and rightly so, as you gain picks and assets down the road, those can be crucial picks as well.
This Washington pick was actually Arizona's pick that Washington got in a trade. So Arizona, that's another fascinating story. Their new GM, Armstrong, he's got no picks, it does seem
right,
like.
That was one of the stipulations, right? He can't be part of the draft.
He can't be part of the draft, but he's at home and he's kind of wondering what's going on here. This was supposed to be, anyways.
Yeah, well, the Calgary Flames traded the pick. It's Washington's now.
The 22nd selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Washington Capitals Executive Vice President and General Manager Brian McClellan.
With the 22nd pick, the Washington Capitals are proud to select Hendrix Lapierre.
So Brian McClellan making the pick, and he goes with Hendrix Lapierre. Of course, the Capitals have a new head coach in Peter Laviolette, and now they have a new draft pick, Hendrix Lapierre out of Chicoutimi in the Quebec League. Supposedly a bright, intelligent hockey IQ, off the charts with this player. But as we mentioned, there is some history of injuries, some concussion related. Last couple they deemed more spinal injury than concussion, but nevertheless. And you made this point, Gary, about the Golden Knights drafted Peyton Krebs last year when he was on a scooter with the Achilles injury in Vancouver. Now he's healthy and knocking on the door to play in the NHL, and now the Capitals have Hendrix Lapierre with their pick here as he is acquired by the Capitals after they picked up that pick from Calgary.
And this is one, Gary, you think this is kind of like the Krebs one that could turn out really good, a healthy guy that maybe slipped a little later than normal?
Super talented player for sure. So it's you hope that there is no lasting effect,
yes,
and that
certainly at that age,
and that he's able to become a player, and he has top 10 skill. He is a guy they may decide we can inject him into our lineup right away and play him. They have some of the skilled guys they have there. You could put him in your top 6, and if he is that skilled, and get a real bump. So I like for Washington, it's a really interesting pick. It might not be a development pick. It might be, you know what, this guy fell into our lap. Let's grab him and let's get him to Washington and see if he can be an NHL
certainly
player
worth the risk, right? When you talk about the talent, and you talk, the reports talk about he's like a hockey nerd, right? He knows all the players in the league. He studies, he eats, sleeps, hockey. And that's the type of player you want. Someone that to me says he's going to be a sponge. He's going to be able to take a lot of things in, right away and learn. And hopefully health is good for him as the Washington Capitals maybe get a bit of a good one here who slipped later than maybe earlier projected.
And I'm sorry, Gary, go ahead.
7 picks away now for the Vegas
We're
Golden
getting
Knights. And, it's interesting. I don't think Kelly McCrimmon automatically selects Ridley Gregg if he's there when he gets to pick. But I like Ridley Gregg because he reminds me of Brendan Gallagher. He's a nasty little piece of work, and his skills are underrated. There's lots to like about him as a player. Kelly knows everything about him. He drafted him and brought him into the Brandon Wheat Kings where he's played. But listen, I'm not suggesting that. Just because the guy,
I played against his dad.
Yeah, and
what was that like?
His dad, Mark. Yeah,
good.
He was a
player.
first round pick. Yeah.
Well, the Capitals taking Hendrix Lapierre at number 22, and a Capitals team that since winning the Stanley Cup, obviously a couple of years ago, they've kind of gone in the wrong direction, right? They've made a coaching change. I think they're looking to inject some youth and some enthusiasm in that
very
lineup.
Uninterested in the return to play.
Yeah, they weren't. Didn't do much with it. Next up, the Philadelphia Flyers at 23. They were one of the hottest teams in the league, along with the Golden Knights when the pause happened, Shane. Yeah. They were really good in the round robin, but then, to the point where they ended up with the first seed in the East and then had their issues after that, especially some of their big guys struggling to score playoffs.
Well, it's going to be interesting, the Flyers, because a huge development in their organization is Matt Niskanen, who had for one more year, a big part of their defensive group, decided to retire, and all the credit to him. He's had a great career, but a little shocking. He still had a lot of hockey in him, but when it's time, it's time. And now, Flyers, you lose a player of that caliber. You've got to find a way, because this is a team. He said they had a great year. They're close. They're building. It's kind of that first step for them. I think this year they weren't good enough after round robin, but certainly they were turning it on. They're best home team in the NHL.
Niskanen lives in Virginia, Minnesota, which is a couple hours north of the Twin Cities. He bought 1,000 acres there. He loves to hunt and fish, and the second half
pretty good spot to be then.
Second half of the season, he just said he wasn't having as much fun as he used to have, and he's been making $6 million a year for the last couple of years. That goes a long way in Virginia.
That'll get you 1,000 acres.
Yeah, well, it'll get you
it'll
get you as many shotgun shells as you need.
There you go.
Speaking of which,
yeah, we've done some activities around here, Shane. You've done a lot of them.
Yes, we did.
Yesterday, I had a gun in my hand for the first time, and Gary and I, same thing. We did some shot some clays. Gary and I each tied the official total. We each hit 1 out of 30.
Yes,
that's not good. Shane, you did much better.
Yeah,
you've done all those things. You're an outdoorsman. Yeah. So, but next up, the Flyers, about 40 seconds away.
Mark Gregg does work for the Philadelphia Flyers, so that would they draft his son here would be interesting.
The one thing the Flyers don't have to worry about, it's been an issue for 20-plus years, is goaltending.
Yeah, they've got their goaltender.
They solved that with Carter Hart, to say the least. But we'll see what direction that the Flyers decide to go in. As we said, coming off what was a really good round robin, got the first seed in the East, but then fell eventually to the Islanders in the playoffs. So Flyers at number 23. So the Golden Knights are getting there. They're with the 29th pick coming up relatively soon anyways. But
well, then Calgary's after Philly. We'll see if they trade again.
Here we go. Flyers are up.
Philadelphia Flyers general manager Chuck Fletcher will be making the 23rd selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
This past July, Philadelphia Flyers scout Jack McElhargy passed away after a battle with cancer. Jack made countless contributions to the Flyers over the years as a player, assistant coach, and scout. Today and every day, we miss Jack's insight, wit, and sense of humor. Jack played a big role in the drafting of several players currently within our organization. This draft, we honor and remember Jack as we select the next class of Flyers prospects. With the 23rd selection, Philadelphia selects from Barry Tyson Forster.
Nice job by Chuck Fletcher remembering Jack McElhargy, who passed away recently, spent a lifetime in the game. We lost him at the age of 68 in the middle of July. But the Flyers, with their pick at number 23, and they elect to keep it, and they get what they hope will be a real good young player here in Tyson Forster, Barry in the Ontario Hockey League, who 80 points in 62 games last year.
Yeah, he's a big power forward. Skating is the one issue with him, and maybe they see something in his stride that they think they can fix and get him to develop. But he's kind of got a little bit of Corey Perry in him. He's nasty, which the Flyers love. And I will say real fast, I knew Jack McElhargy pretty well, and I went into a bar in Syracuse one night, and I couldn't get a table, and they were kind of saying, you got to move on. And I said, isn't this the place that Jack Mack drinks? And they found a seat for me at the bar right away, and I had a real good night. So rest in peace, Jack.
Coverage continuing from Rock Creek as the Golden Knights we're about to get to the 24th pick. If Calgary decides to keep it, they've traded down twice, but the Golden Knights at 29 coming up here shortly as we head to break. We picked the brain of Braden McNabb, who went in the third round of the 2009 draft of the Buffalo Sabres. Our first round coverage continuing from Rock Creek on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Hey, Golden Knights fans. Braden McNabb here. My draft memory is remembering the feeling of getting drafted in the third round and being able to call home and tell everyone that I was drafted to the NHL is a very proud moment of mine.
Tom Brady and the Bucks.
Hey. I'll be rotating around Vegas after the body this up.
The Vegas Golden Knights are proud to select from UNLV Bobby James.
Bobby, get in.
Bobby, time for dinner.
To know the
Shea Knighty, Gary Lawless with you here at Rock Creek in the heart of Montana. And delighted you could join us for our first round coverage. We'll have another full day of coverage tomorrow, rounds 2 through 7 of the draft coming up. The Golden Knights picking at number 29 here in the first round, but the Calgary Flames are on the clock and up next. So initially this was going to be the 19th pick. They traded down to Washington at 22, and now at 24. Here's Gary Bettman.
Calgary Flames general manager Brad Treliving will be making the 24th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
Thanks, Gary. I'm proud to introduce, to make our 2020 selection, former Flames captain, former Flames great, and Hockey Hall of Famer Lanny McDonald. Lanny?
Thank you, Brad. It's been almost 50 years since my name was called at the NHL Draft. It's one of those great memories in a young player's career, and still to this day, it is for me. Now, the draft has certainly changed a lot since my day in 1973. But no matter if it's a phone call, a big stage, or today virtual, it's a special day and an honor to pull on an NHL jersey over your head for the first time. I have the privilege tonight to welcome this young man to the Calgary Flames to carry on our traditions and legacy. I'll ask Flames Director of Amateur Scouting, Todd Button, to bring the jersey forward. Thank you, Todd. And with the 24th selection in the 2020 NHL entry draft, the Calgary Flames select center Connor Zary from the Kamloops Blazers.
So Connor Zary going to the Flames out of the Western Hockey League and Kamloops. Lanny McDonald was right. What an experience. He was the 4th overall pick in the 1973 draft of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, I've been sitting here, during our breaks and telling Shane that Calgary's going to do this, going to do that, and he keeps saying to me, what about Connor Zary? What about Connor Zary? You knew it. How'd you know this?
I just I figured, he's a guy that was projected a little bit earlier, has been sitting around, and the Flames, they like the Western League boys, Trey Living, and that's exactly what they got.
So we had one of our correspondents earlier, Cody
He'll
Glass,
know about
that
this.
joined us, but now we've got Peyton Krebs, who joins us, the Golden Knights' first-round pick from last year, then went 17th in the draft. The Golden Knights selected him in Vancouver. Peyton, thanks so much for joining us here. And first off, before we get to your draft analysis, how are you doing? What's it been like? You were in the bubble. You were, you had a great phase 3, and you were around the team up in Edmonton. What was that like, and how have you been doing here lately since the season ended?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. No, I'm doing great. Back home with the family after the bubble, which was a lot of fun. Obviously, wish we could have went further, but way she goes in hockey. So, no, I'm doing great. Just training hard and trying to do my thing. So, getting ready for whenever the season's going to start, and just having some fun at home here and getting ready.
Connor Zary just taken by the Flames. Did you cross paths with him, and who's kind of caught your eye here as they've gone down through the first round?
Yeah, no, Connor, I've been fortunate to play with him in U18s, and obviously played against him in the Western League lots. A great guy, and really excited for him. I'll send him a text once I'm done here, congratulating him, and obviously close to me in the Flames, so that's pretty cool too. And then, the draft, I think there's been lots of guys. Obviously, Dylan Holloway, who lived at my house here in Okotoks during the season. That's pretty awesome to see him go. He's like a second brother, or I guess a third brother to me, and it's been awesome to see him go.
Well, we asked Cody Glass about Seth Jarvis. What do you know about Caden Guhle from Prince Albert?
Yeah, no, he's definitely hard to play against. I've got a few cross checks from in the back from him in front of the net, and he's a steady D-man. I think he's hard to play against, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes in the future, and I'm excited for him.
Ridley, Greg is still out there. He plays in Brandon. You play in Winnipeg. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, he's another guy that's not easy to play against. I think he can lay the body pretty good, and he's got a really good shot. Obviously, I've played against him since I think Adams, maybe even novice. So I've got to know his family pretty well, and obviously a great person foremost. And it'll be interesting to see if he's around when Vegas is picking.
Did you, obviously last year, you were a guy that a lot of teams had in the top 10, but you were injured, and so you dropped to 17 where Vegas got you. We just saw Hendrix Lapierre go through the same thing. Were you kind of watching and understanding? They showed his face a few times on the television, and it looked like he was starting to get a little worried. Can you take us in to what he was feeling during those moments?
Yeah, I mean, during those moments, you're kind of just at that point, you're like, when am I going to get drafted? Like, I've been waiting for a while. I guess not that long in some cases, but it's definitely nerve-wracking and exciting, and obviously it's the NHL, so if you're picked in the first round, it's exciting either way, and once you hear your name called, it's pretty special.
Did you expect last year, Peyton, that the Golden Knights would take you? You were coming off the Achilles injury. We talked earlier about you had the scooter in Vancouver, right? You were wheeling yourself around on that. Did you expect to go where you went?
I honestly had no idea where I was going. Obviously, I had a really good interview with Vegas at the Combine, and I had a good feeling if I was around there that I could be chosen by them. And I wasn't really sure where I was going, and really fortunate to be picked by Vegas. It's a blessing in disguise for sure, and it was really special.
Well, last one for you before we let you go here. How do you approach this next stretch of time? The league announcing yesterday that they're targeting January 1st as a start date for the next season. But with the uncertainty, as we're kind of moving ahead now, how do you approach the next stretch of time?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a young guy. I'm just going to try to get better every day. I want to improve my skills and try to push for a spot on the team. Obviously, we fell short this year, and I want to win a Stanley Cup. So I'm just going to keep myself prepared, and you never know when things are going to start up again. So I'm really excited to take this time to really improve all my skills and get stronger and be ready for when the season starts. Peyton,
thanks so much for the scouting report. Good to see you over the Zoom, and thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Thanks very much, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Peyton.
You too. Peyton Krebs joining us, and what an impression he made. Forced his way onto that, basically the taxi squad that went into the bubble in Edmonton.
And the learning experience he got there, being with Derek England and veteran guys, that goes a long way.
Colorado Avalanche,
selection
25th.
In the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Colorado Avalanche General Manager Joe Sakic.
Thank you, Gary. With the 25th pick, the Colorado Avalanche are proud to select from the Halifax Mooseheads, Justin Barron.
So Joe Sakic, the GM of the Avs, making the selection of Justin Barron, who had a little bit of a health issue last year, right? He missed 29 games, had to be on some blood thinners for a blood clot last season, but it appears that is in the rearview mirror for him. And he's drawn some comparisons to Jeff Petrie, who's had a real good career, and obviously now with the Montreal Canadiens. But Joe Sakic taking, you look at last year they took, we were in.
I was going to say, I'm surprised taking another D-man.
Last year, Gary, we were in Vancouver. The first defenseman taken was Bo Byram by Colorado at number 4. Now, this is a little bit further down the chart, obviously, but they go with Justin Barron at number 27. But you think about Byram kind of waiting in the wings, Cale Makar bursting on the scene last year. But certainly they were high on Barron, and they take him here with the 27th pick in the first round.
Well, go ahead, Shane.
Well, just probably a little more different makeup, more of a two-way solid defenseman. They've already got some elite offensive young defensemen there with the Avalanche, but I was a little surprised that they're going back to another defenseman this year.
He's smooth. The question about him is his love for the game. You have to really love it.
It's a tough thing to teach.
It is. You have to. Lots of guys play because they're good at it, and it's a different thing to love it and really want to chase it. And it'll be interesting to see, where that leads Justin Barron as a player.
Well, pretty good run for the Halifax Mooseheads, by the way. The 7th time in the last 8 years they've had a player taken in the first round of the draft, and this year it's Justin Barron going to Colorado. The Avalanche, I think a lot of teams felt were poised to make a real good run in the West as well. Had some key injuries, knocked off by Dallas, and then obviously the Stars knocked off the VGK after that in the West Finals. So.
It's interesting. 60% of the players taken in the first round play 200 games or more. It's not an automatic. This is not throwing darts at a board, and you get it, and you automatically get a guy who's going to be in your lineup for the next 10 years. Think about that. 60% of first rounders play 200 games or more.
Yeah, which is it's about what's that?
40.
3. Yeah. It's not much, right?
Not much.
That's the BU math for you.
There we go.
St. Louis Blues are up next at 26. The Blue Note obviously winning the Stanley Cup in 2019. There were some, and they were the number 1 seed in the West when the pause came. Their GM, Doug Armstrong, had talked about, there were some issues before they got in the bubble. They had probably a quarter of their team that had come down with coronavirus. They also had a handful of players who, there were some wives were expecting babies. They had a hard time just kind of getting going in the bubble, not unlike, honestly, the top seed in the East in Boston. When they get into the bubble, they just
a little slow.
Sense of urgency wasn't there, and the Blues eventually got knocked out by Vancouver in what was that first round of the playoffs. So and so much on Doug Armstrong's plate these days. Their general manager, and right at the top of the list is, are they going to be able to keep their captain, Alex Pietrangelo, who it certainly appears is going to hit free agency coming up on Friday.
Well, if they draft a defenseman here, they're sending a message.
Exactly. And that might be the direction they go.
Thanks for nothing, Alex.
Yeah.
It's been great, but good while it lasted.
Well, we'll see where the Blues end up going with this pick. As we said, a team that won their first ever Stanley Cup 2 years ago, and then looked like they were going to make a good run again. The pause happened, and then a lot of things changed for them. As we once again, the Golden Knights with the 29th pick coming up in this draft.
It's getting there, right? We're pulling up to, and there's this is where all that preparation, they'll have their boards and crossed off, and who's
I'll throw some names at you, Shane.
Well, you're going to throw the Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, Jacob Perreault, Yannick Perreault's son, 40-goal scorer for Sarnia in the Ontario League. I like Ryan O'Rourke. He's still out there, the defenseman from Sault Ste. Marie, and Maverick Bourque, who there's not a lot of talk about him. He comes from the Quebec League, is very highly skilled, and maybe that most highly skilled guy that doesn't get a lot of talk about. And Vegas scouts the Quebec League very well. Raphael Pouliot is going to run a draft table for an NHL team at some point in time, and his father coaches in the Quebec League. They know the Quebec League very well.
A couple of players, too, that when we had Sam Constantino on earlier today, Gary, you mentioned Jan Mysak. He's another guy that he thought might be intriguing for the Golden Knights, kind of drawn some comparisons to Logan Couture, native of the Czech Republic, that is playing in Hamilton in the OHL. So, you get to the point now where the depth of this draft, and we talked about, Lafrenière in his own tier, and then Byfield and Stutzle probably in the next tier, and then after that, a pretty deep and good draft this year. So the St. Louis Blues awaiting at number 26.
Ozzy Weisblatt from Prince Albert is another name to keep your eye on for Vegas.
All right, St. Louis Blues, and they're up next at number 26. The Golden Knights are just 3 picks away.
The 26th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by St. Louis Blues General Manager Doug Armstrong.
The St. Louis Blues select from Edmonton, Jake Neighbors.
You could hear in the background the reaction of the Neighbors family and friends. So Jake Neighbors going to the Blue Note with their first-round pick and number 26 overall in this year's NHL Draft. So, we have a view on our monitor of the celebration there. There's some balloons all over the place, family and friends. And, you think of all those early mornings, Shane, and you went through this, and, going to the rink at ungodly hours and traveling Lord knows where to play. And, for this group of young men tonight, this is the culmination of something they've been chasing their entire lives and drafted into the NHL. And for this group tonight, drafted in the first round.
Well, and we're seeing, all the family around. It's fantastic, very emotional. And they don't get to that point without that support. So whoever it is around them, family, friends, you can't get to all those arenas, all those games, all those practices without the support, and now they get to celebrate that together. And a very, very special day as Neighbors plays a heavy game. He's supposed to be strong, powerful, finishes checks. He's out of Airdrie, Alberta. So
he competes.
I think that's the, Doug Armstrong. You're going to play for Craig Berube. Competing might be number one thing you have on your list, and probably this is the type of player that Berube would love.
One scouting note I have on this player is that he looks like a bowling ball and plays like one too.
That's pretty good.
Dad played professionally in Germany, did Jake Neighbors, so he goes to the St. Louis Blues. Had a good year last year with Edmonton in the Western League, 70 points in 64 games. So a Blues team trying to rebound for what was a disappointing playoff for them. They had a terrific regular season, couldn't carry that and get that back up and going again really for them once the return to play happened. So the Anaheim Ducks coming up next at number 27. And for the Ducks, this will be their second pick in the first round. They took Jamie Drysdale, the defenseman, at number 6. We've kind of talked about, they've been able to develop some real good defensemen over the years. They lost one of the better ones in Shea Theodore, obviously, to the Golden Knights in the expansion draft.
Thank you.
Good for the VGK. But nevertheless, they will be up next. And then after that, the Ottawa Senators with their third pick in the first round. They had 3 and 5. Then they'll have 28. And then, at long last, the Golden Knights will select at number 29.
All right, this will be the first edition of Gary's Big Board. The guys that I like right now.
Gary's Big Board, dude. Like, I should have that behind me right now.
We did it last year, and we were supposed to have a big board.
That's right.
It never happened, Sage. Maverick Bourque, Ryan O'Rourke, Ridley Gregg, Vasily Ponomarev. He is really underrated, and Jacob Perreault. Those are the guys that I'm kind of thinking are potentially on Vegas's radar.
When in my old job at a radio station in Boston.
So did you give up on Maverick Bourque?
No, I said him first.
No, okay. He doesn't pay attention. You know this better than I do.
I'm supposed to be the one that doesn't listen.
Just zones right out.
Just play your role.
So,
okay.
At my old job in Boston, there was an afternoon drive show when the NFL draft would come along.
Hold on a second. We've heard some of some of the stories from that show. They are not suitable for this.
No,
okay?
This is fine. This is along the lines of Gary's big draft board.
All right.
So they would get, look, nobody. The NFL, you're getting into the 3rd and 4th rounds, and nobody knows the offensive lineman that played at Alabama. You know what I mean? So they would do a big board where they'd take like the scouting report, like a magazine of the college football prospects, and they would throw a highlighter at the magazine, and whoever they hit, they said that's who the Patriots are going to take next. That's how scientific it was.
That's not much different from what I'm doing right now, folks. The magic
very similar to Gary's strategy. Gary's big board.
Their point was, we know as much about these guys as you do.
Yes.
So anyway, but for those that are paid to do this, they certainly have done months worth of research here as they get ready for the first round and beyond that of the NHL draft tonight and tomorrow.
Anaheim Ducks Assistant General Manager Martin Madden will be making the 27th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
The Anaheim Ducks are excited to select from the Starnia Sting, Jacob Perreault.
Lawman, I think you uttered 12 names. That was one of them, was it not?
I gave you 5
Okay,
names.
5, maybe. Okay, my math
We'll
might
take
have
him
been
off the list.
There you go.
Yeah, Jacob Perreault, or Jacob, as Martin Madden said.
Yep.
Put a little accent aigu into that one. So
native of Hinsdale, Illinois.
Yes.
So there you go, and kind of a right-handed Jake DeBrusk. That comparison's been made, but had a couple of years ago, real good year in the Ontario League.
His dad, we all
30
know.
goals, and you would know his dad, Yannick Perreault, for a long NHL career.
Yeah, Yannick never lost very many faceoffs. He was one of the best drawmen Shane, you can speak to it. You played up.
Well, I didn't go. I wasn't a centerman.
I know,
yes,
but
he
you
was
were on
really
the
good,
ice
yeah.
every time he was out there. You had to go get the puck because your centerman lost it.
No, I don't know. I had some good centermen, but yes, no, certainly the bloodlines is. Perreault gets picked, and the Anaheim Ducks defense. Now they got their forward here, a couple of first-round picks.
All right, we're going to step aside. The Golden Knights pick is 2 picks away at number 29. As our draft coverage continues, round 1 from Rock Creek Cattle Company in the heart of Montana. Back with more in a moment on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Night City, gonna set my soul on fire. I got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting out there. They're all living the devil may care. Well, I'm just a devil with a lot to spare. So Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas. Oh, I wish that.
Golden Knight fans, it's your boy Lil Jon. Yeah, Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas.
Little John, ho ho ho. You know what would make this song so Vegas?
What's that, Wayne?
Hit it.
Las Vegas! Las Vegas! Yeah! Yeah!
As we continue our coverage from Rock Creek Cattle Company, we're going to check back in our Vegas studios with Darren Millard. Darren, we're closing in. The Golden Knights just a couple of picks away now.
And some names I heard you guys banding about, best players available still on the board. And the reason why we have a few more of those names, because a couple of teams went kind of off into left field around picks 20 and 21. Shakir Mukhamadullin went to 20th pick, and Igor Chinakhov went to the 21st pick. So they were ranked 17th and 30th among Euros, and they went 20th and 21st overall. So in back-to-back picks, Calgary did some work in accumulating some draft choices in this first round. They slid down twice. I don't know whether they're trying to build up ratings for the draft show or what to keep people entertained, but they did that on a couple of different occasions. And we also talked about Washington and Hendricks Lapierre, and the questions about him medically. He was talked about being a top 5 pick before he had the injuries, and he ends up going to Washington in the pick that was past 20th. So that could be one of those Peyton Krebs picks that we saw from a year ago. He wasn't even sure he would be selected in this draft when he went through the injuries. And because of the pause, a lot of teams couldn't get his medical information, but also because of the pause, he had time to get healthy and went back and played this past weekend and the opening weekend of the QMJHL.
Trent Mann, Chief Amateur Scout for the Ottawa Senators,
and just one more
will be
note
making
here.
the 28th selection
Philadelphia selection.
in the first round.
He jumped up 20 spots from the midterm rankings.
NHL Draft.
He improved 26 schools year to year. Shane, did you ever do that?
Mallard, hold on one second.
28th selection.
Hold on one second.
The Ottawa Senators are proud to select from Brandon of the WHL, Ridley Gregg.
Well, there you go, Mallard. Ridley Gregg going. There was a lot of conjecture that if he was there at number 29 with the Golden Knights, he might be drafted by the Golden Knights, but he doesn't get there. He's taken at 28 by the Ottawa Senators. Of course.
Yeah, that's one of those names that were still available, right?
Yeah,
we were talking
absolutely.
About.
Kelly McCrimmon's obviously his knowledge of him would be as good as you could get, right? With his relationship of owning the Brandon Wheat Kings until just about a month ago. But Ridley Gregg from Brandon in the West, point-a-game player last year, and he goes at 28th to the Ottawa Senators. So now the Golden Knights.
29th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas, you're on the clock.
And that'll be next up. So the Golden Knights ready to go. And
anybody got a?
What do you think, Mallard?
Well, there's Maverick Bork is a name that.
Well, you and Gary. So you guys do agree sometimes.
Yeah, every now and then. Well, when there's 5 or 6 states between us, we get along much better.
I like JJ Peterka.
That's what I was thinking.
JJ Peterka.
And nobody's brought up the agent's son.
Yeah, Brisson.
Oh, yeah.
Brisson.
That's right.
Was also knocking on the door. But from what we've seen so far with some of the strange picks, there's probably more players that they didn't think were going to be available that are still available for Vegas right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we can. We'll never find out. But one of the things that when you pick 29, you want to get to that spot and have a guy that was above 29 on your list. That's what you hope for. You hope that a guy that you had at 21 or 17 or wherever is sitting there waiting for you. And it will be interesting to know, like, did Kelly McCrimmon just bite his lip when Ridley Gregg from the Brandon Wheat Kings was selected, or is there somebody else? Like they weren't going to select Ridley Gregg just because he was there. He would have had to have been the guy on their list, the top guy on their list. So will be interesting to talk to Kelly after and see where that all shook out. I will tell you this: I've been at a bunch of drafts with him when he was not working for the Golden Knights, and he took enormous pride in players from the Brandon Wheat Kings being selected, and he'll be real happy that Schneider and Gregg both went in the first round. That's a good day for the organization that he owned for such a long time.
Well, Ridley Gregg as well, guys, and he's committed to play in Tier 3 in Sweden coming up this season, right? Now he does have an out clause in it. If he wants to come back and play in the Western League and go back to Brandon, that is part of the deal. But at least for now,
but that was just because of the COVID situation.
Yeah,
right? Because the Western League's late getting going, so get him over there, get him playing a little bit. Although the KHL has had its issues in that.
Yeah, so the Golden Knights, they're on the clock about 2.5 minutes away from making their pick. And, you know, the VGK, of course, in that first year, they had 3 picks in the first round. Cody Glass at number 6, and they also had Eric Branstrom and Nick Suzuki. They moved those 2 in trades later on, obviously. Branstrom going in the Stone trade, Suzuki going in the Pacioretty trade. Last year, taking Peyton Krebs with the first-round pick. They didn't have a first-rounder in 2019 draft. They lost that in the Tomas Tatar trade, right? So when they picked up Tatar, they didn't have one. So here we go. The Golden Knights just a couple of minutes away from their first-round pick, and you know we've talked about it.
You guys surprised? Darren, I didn't ask you. Are you surprised how quiet it is trade-wise?
Yeah, really. Just because there's so many teams without a first-round pick, and we had a couple of teams with 3 first-round picks, 4 teams with multiple picks. I thought there'd be a real push for some of the dozen group to try and get in there and get a first-round pick. Vegas, over the course of the history, 10 centermen that they drafted, 4 lefters, 2 right wingers, 8 defensemen, and 4 goaltenders. So again, that balance that you see. I don't know whether we're going to see the defenseman here, and if they do, there's a couple of interesting ones still there. But I'm with Gary here. I'm watching Maverick 4.
You know who was taken 29th overall in the draft in 1987?
Ryan McGill.
Golden Knights assistant coach Ryan McGill by the Chicago Blackhawks. Now back then there weren't 29 teams in the NHL, so he would have been a high second-round pick. But anyway, we have a
what
view
were
on
they saying about him?
I don't know. Good enough to go pretty high in the second round.
High hockey IQ. High hockey IQ and move the puck.
That's right.
And tough as nails.
That's right. Tough as nails is right. So the Golden Knights closing in on their pick. We just had a view a moment ago of the Golden Knights war room with Bobby Lowe's, Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee.
Scott Luce.
And here we go with number 29 for the VGK.
The 29th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft will be made by Vegas Golden Knights General Manager Kelly McCrimmon.
With the 29th selection in the first round of the entry draft, the Vegas Golden Knights are pleased to select from the Chicago Steel of the USHL forward Brendan Brisson.
Well, that is a name that was bantered about a little bit, and that last name should ring a bell, right? Pat Brisson, who's been a long-time player agent, represents Sidney Crosby, among others. His son, Brendan, selected by the Golden Knights, first round of the 2020 draft with the 29th overall pick, playing for Chicago in the USHL.
Well, Pat Brisson is Jonathan Marchessault's agent, as well as I would imagine he's this young man's agent as well. This is a real skilled player. He can really makes great moves east-west, but the one thing about him that I think Vegas will really like, he has a big-time top-end gear. This guy can really fly, and that's an interesting selection. It's wasn't one of the names that I had, but they must have had him high, and he comes into their spot here.
Well, and you got to think, we're not in the interviews with these players, right? So right away, this is a kid who has grown up around elite NHL players. His dad has represented him. He's been around the game. He's been around the players. I'm sure, they have he's from California where they do the big workouts there. I'm sure he's worked out with these players. He understands the commitment, the commitment level it takes from them on and off the ice. He has a big inside look to not only NHL players, but to some of the best players in the league and how they handle themselves. And that's a big advantage. He's been able to get that through his dad representing a lot of these guys.
He'll turn 19 years old on the 22nd of October. Good year last year, playing for Chicago in the USHL, Rookie of the Year. Last season, 24 goals and 59 points for Brendan Brisson. 5'11", 180 pounds, and he is the newest Golden Knight. So they go with Brendan Brisson with their first round pick, number 29th overall in the 2020 draft. We're going to check back in again with Darren Millard. Mallard, what did you make of the pick? There's a lot of different lists that you've seen and we've seen. The list I'm looking at had him at 32, so not too much of a reach to grab him at 29 in the first round.
Well, yeah, Central Scouting actually had him the 20th ranked North American skater, but he had a great second half of the season and shot up the rankings. Was number 2 in the USHL in point production. He's committed to the University of Michigan this year. But Gary talked about the engine in this skater, and what he can do is not as big. He's not 6 feet yet, but what he can do, a lot like Nate McKinnon, is he can make plays at high speed. And the other thing about this player is he's not going to be intimidated at all. I mean, he's probably skated with more NHLers than a lot of guys that have been in the league 2 years because he's been around that many high-profile players.
Well,
but he's a really good passer, and he's around high-end players forever. Kind of followed in the footsteps of Sidney Crosby. Went to Shattuck St. Mary's, and now is going where it separates. He's going to go to college, but he's got a high engine and can make a lot of plays at high speed. That's what really impresses me, and he's a pivot, and I love that about him too.
Luc Robitaille and Pat Brisson were roommates in Los Angeles. Luc was playing for the Los Angeles Kings, and they were teammates in the Quebec Junior Hockey League. Pat came to L.A. and washed cars. And then someone asked Luc to do a signing. They phoned the house, and Luc wasn't there, and Pat answered the phone and said, hey, we want you to come to do this signing, and we'll pay you $200. And Pat could barely speak English. In a very broken French accent, said, I'm not coming for $200, I'll come for $5. And they agreed to it. And when Luc got to the signing, Pat went with him, and the guy said to Luc, what made you think you could ask for $2? Ask for $5. I'll give you the $5, but what made you rocket your price up? And Luc knew nothing about it and looked at Pat and said, what happened here? And he said, well, you're worth more than $2. We got you $5, and that's how he started, and that's how he became an agent. And he is
done very well.
Yeah, one of the most high-powered guys.
So,
Go ahead.
Does Brendan get a break on the commission then?
I don't know. It'll be interesting because I would have thought that in many ways his story would have been for him to end up with the LA Kings, but Vegas is a better place than LA and a better team, right. So he just lucked out.
So the Golden Knights taking Brendan Brisson with the 29th pick in the first round, as Darren mentioned, going to be a freshman at the University of Michigan coming up this fall, but Brendan Brisson is the first-round pick for the Golden Knights in 2020. So 2 selections to go now in the first round. The 2 teams, the Dallas Stars and the San Jose Sharks, they are up next. The Stars closing in on their pick. Here it is at number 30. About 10 seconds away from that.
Hey, Dave, it was an early throw, Dave.
It was just
wide outside.
Yep. Just a bit outside. That's right. Here it is.
Dallas Stars assistant general manager Scott White will be making the 30th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft.
With the 30th selection in the 2020 NHL Draft, the Dallas Stars select Maverick Bourque of Shawinigan.
Heard that name a lot here over the last little while. Maverick Bourque was still on the board at number 30. He's not on the board anymore. He's a member of the Dallas Stars as he goes to the Western Conference champs from this past year. So Maverick Bourque goes to Dallas. 1 pick to go in the first round. We're going to step aside the San Jose Sharks, who will have the 31st and final pick in round number 1. We'll have that for you when we come back. Our first round coverage continuing from Rock Creek Cattle Company in Deer Lodge, Montana on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Closing in on wrapping up our first round coverage, the San Jose Sharks will have the final pick in round one, and our coverage is brought to you by Truly Hard Seltzer Lemonade, 4 breakaway flavors, only 1 gram of sugar. Truly, an official partner of the Vegas Golden Knights. Find your favorite flavor today at trulyhardseltzer.com. Live Truly. Just a couple of moments ago, the Golden Knights.
What are those Truly
I was gonna
things?
say, what are those?
What are they, Dave?
I've never had one.
No, you've never had one. That's for sure.
I've had a couple.
Hey, we're all fans.
I like a variety of flavors, and I love the no sugar or the low sugar. The only 1 gram is
healthy. It's been a long summer for the Golden Knights broadcast crew.
Oh, yes. But Brendan Brisson taking
it
truly has, yes, with the 29th pick. Maverick Bourque going to Dallas at number 30, and one to go with the San Jose Sharks at number 31. We do want to remind you we'll have rounds 2 through 7 coverage tomorrow starting at 8:30 Pacific time right here on all of our social media channels and also on Fox Sports Las Vegas. But the San Jose Sharks will put the finishing touches here on this draft. This is a pick that originally belonged to Tampa Bay, went to San Jose in the Barclay Goodrow trade.
Director of Amateur Scouting, Doug Wilson Jr., will make the 31st pick of the 2020 NHL Draft.
The San Jose Sharks are proud to select from the Prince Albert Raiders, Ozzy Weisblatt.
So you can see sign that.
Yes, on our stream. Yeah,
Ozzy's mom is deaf. And
great
that's
touch.
why they did.
Great touch.
No kidding.
Yep. Yeah. So they in sign language said his name for his mom. So that's great stuff by the Sharks. Ozzy Weisblatt taken with the final pick in round 1.
I think they got a good player there. I like Ozzy Weisblatt, and I like the guys from the Western League always. So good pick.
Yeah, that's
don't we all?
Yeah, there you go.
No, that was a nice touch there. I
great.
just noticed that earlier, and very nice touch, for him to celebrate with his family and his mom and everybody around.
He has raised his mom Kim has raised the kids as a single mom. So a nice touch by the Sharks organization as well in signing Ozzy Weisblatt's name. So he's the final pick out of Prince Albert. Another Raider taken here in the first round, a right winger out of PA that will put the finishing touches on round 1 of this NHL draft. So, we saw certainly some high-end guys taken right off the bat with Alexei Lafrenière, who, as we said, is expected to be just a franchise changer for a team. And the New York Rangers and the world we're in now, they get in the playoffs with the expanded format. They get the first round pick because the lottery, system was a little bit different this time around. And, and then the only, was Byfield going to go 2 or 3? He went 2. Stutzle went 3. And then the Golden Knights had to wait a while, Shane, to get their pick. But you had New Jersey with 3 picks in the first round, Ottawa with 3 picks in the first round. And then, as Darren mentioned earlier, some picks that were intriguing.
Well, it's the back-to-back picks.
Yeah.
Just Columbus one still, I know they don't have a second round, but it's just right off the marker.
Yeah, for sure. New Jersey went with Shakir Mukhamadullin. I think I got that right.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
pretty good.
Is a heck of a
and
guess.
And then the next one right after New Jersey.
Yeah, with Columbus, right?
Columbus,
with Igor Chinakhov. So, back-to-back picks where, again, we've got a lot of paperwork here, and we had to sift through quite a bit of it. But, again, and worth noting, guys, you think about this is months and months and months of every organization going through how many different potential mock drafts and where might these players fall. Can we get a player that we didn't think we might be able to get? Well, now that first round comes to a close here tonight.
And go ahead, Shane.
I was just saying, you really don't know the full results of this draft for a few years.
You don't. And the interesting thing with this draft, everything stopped in March, okay? Yeah. Well, the work that Brisson did in the second half of the season with the Chicago Steel, that's when he really started to look like a special player. Did Vegas was their process superior to some places, and did they uncover a guy that, a gem here, or, we'll find out. But that's kind of my looking at why they went the way they did and putting some of these external forces into play. It'll be real fascinating to talk to Bobby Lowe's and to Kelly McCrimmon and find out why they went with Brendan Brisson.
Well, and I think you're right. That's the challenging part of it, is not only for them to scout and watch these players, but certainly you want to see a player that's going like this in his career. And then now the difficult part of it is to project where that can get to. And, did he do enough that they said, well, the projection isn't here now. It's going to be, that's the difficult thing. That's the evaluation. It's
an art, not a science. Yeah. It's not a formula. It's an art, and you have to put a lot of things into that blender. Like, someone figured out that Shane Knighty, who wasn't ready to be in the NHL when he was drafted, that he was going to.
I was ready, just my skills weren't.
That's right. You thought you were ready.
I was ready.
You know what I'm saying. All right.
Well, it's been a lot of fun here. Round 1 coverage in the books, and special thanks to a lot of people that made this possible. Jenna Viard, Sage Sandwich, Garrett Calloway, Chris Chapman, Darren Millard,
Gary
Lawless, Shane Knighty, Dave Gosher, right on down the line. But again, a reminder, we'll be back tomorrow. Full coverage starting at 8:30 Pacific, rounds 2 through 7, and we'll have everything covered for you from that. But Brendan Brisson, the newest Golden Knight, taking 29th in the first round for the VGK here in 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Our coverage from Rock Creek Cattle Company. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning on our social media channels and on Fox Sports Las Vegas.